hands of the Seattle Mariners, who are first place in the American League West. This is the Kevin Sheehan Show right here on the Team 980. We're always live and free on the Odyssey app as well. Lynnell Willingham sitting in for Kevin as he is out for the remainder of the week, if I'm not mistaken. Denton Day, happy birthday to our brother from another mother. My guy Denton Day, one of my absolute favorites. Mad Max behind the glass, playing all the tunes, keeping us up to speed. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, Lynnell. How are we?
I am.
You know, there's another birthday that you.
Whose birthday did I miss? Trust me, I have something special for that.
Oh, I'm sure.
I have something very special for that. But you can get in my ear on that, and we can be funny with that. But
we'll plot.
We will plot. No, I'm doing good. We have a lot planned for you all. It is a loaded day. Normally, right in Sports Radioville, May the 28th.
Yeah.
Could be a very, very dry news day.
I was really expecting to be scraping by today. And
literally,
then it all hit me.
We're literally overloaded. And that is good for your boy because I'm doing a little double dip. You can also catch me tonight on The Fan from 6:30 to 9:10, leading into Game 2 of Nats and Mariners. Loaded show for you. Britt Giroli of The Athletic going to join us at about 10:20. We'll get her thoughts on what I want to open up with. We played that James Wood audio. He hit home run number 14 on the season last night. He has been awesome to this point and a part of this young Nats core that has some folks excited, except for Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic, who went scorched earth yesterday on the Washington Nationals, pretty much calling out what they have been over the past 3-4 years and really since the start of this rebuild. The lead reads, Nationals remain amongst MLB's bottom feeders despite lengthy rebuild. And this is always tough because I think with the Nationals, for me at least, when I have discussion about them, when I have discourse about them and why things, are kind of on a slow roll here when it comes to their rebuild, my number one excuse that I bake in for them, and I think it's genuine and valid, the Nationals didn't get to capitalize financially and from a popularity standpoint off of their World Series in 2019. I think in any professional sport, especially when it comes to finances, and we know that's been a big issue amongst Nats fans with this group is they don't spend a lot of money. Well, they didn't get to benefit off of a World Series gate in 2020, right? They didn't get to, capitalize off of merchandise being sold. Now, obviously, merch stores are open, things of that nature, but it's COVID, right? The country was shut the hell down. They weren't even traveling, Charlie and Dave onto away broadcast. Like, it was that, and that was also a financial move. So, it's tough. It is. So, I feel like that's the one excuse that I do give the Lerner family, but this Ken Rosenthal piece goes into so much, and I will tweet it out. It's at NELL_BTP. This Ken Rosenthal piece, he goes completely scorched earth, and the timing of it, I say, is absolutely brilliant because this morning, the general manager of the Washington Nationals, Mike Rizzo, was on with the Sports Junkies this morning and got to defend him. We'll let you hear from Mike Rizzo in a second, but I do want to give you some of what Ken Rosenthal had to say. And he starts out with bangers, right? Since winning the World Series in 2019, the Nationals rank third in the majors in losses, 1 behind Pittsburgh, 14 behind Colorado. And they're off to a 24-29 start. I will say this, to the Nats' credit, to Rizzo's credit, the timing of this article is interesting because they had been playing well here over the stretch of the past 2.5 weeks. Obviously, that 1-7 start to begin the regular season is really the issue, and they have had plenty of issues with their bullpen. The relief pitching has not been very good. Their bats have once again gone cold at different points throughout this year. But what Ken Rosenthal and The Athletic really hits on here is they've got a pretty wicked cocktail of bad things happening to them. It's an ownership group that is reluctant to spend, and I kind of gave you a little reason why they may be reluctant to spend because they may not have the money. And it's also a scouting department, a baseball operations group that, quite frankly, since landing Strauss and Harper in back-to-back years in 2009 and 2010, they haven't really drafted worth a damn. If we're being, pretty honest about this thing. Here's the telltale sign of this Washington Nationals team. Think about this, right? This rebuild began in 2020, technically, right? You gutted yourself after the 2019 World Series. You knew the Juan Soto trade was going to be imminent. There was a lot of doubts at that time as to whether or not they'd be able to land a deal with him. But to Rizzo's credit, that Juan Soto deal, whether, fans understand it or not, was a massive, massive deal. And quite frankly, a deal that I could go out on a limb and say, yeah, the Nats won that trade. When you look at the best players on this Washington Nationals roster right now, they are a byproduct of the Juan Soto deal. C.J. Abrams, James Wood, Mackenzie Gore, all byproducts of this deal. And I think if you were to ask folks, that's who you would think are the best players on this team. So the one thing that I look at when I look at the Washington Nationals big picture, what's next for me as a fan, what I'm most concerned about next as a fan is, well, are they going to be able to lock up some of these key young guns that have played really well for them this year and starting last year? Talking about Mackenzie Gore, James Wood, C.J. Abrams. It's tough. The guy that I think has the best chance of re-signing would be C.J. Abrams because he's not represented by Scott Boras. Abrams, a part of Rock Nation. And apparently this past spring, or last spring rather, there were pretty substantive discussions with the Nationals regarding an extension of C.J. Abrams. That's according to the Post, but a deal didn't get done at that time. And guess what? Yesterday's price is not today's price, especially with C.J. Abrams, who has turned into one of the best young shortstops in all of the majors. So it is going to be fascinating to see how this all works out. The tough part about it, and why I guess Ken was able to go scorched earth, there's a track record and a pattern of behavior here with this organization of not doing things right. And I don't know where the buck stops, so to speak, right? I try to give Mike Rizzo the benefit of the doubt because we saw it during the mid-2010s. When he's been allotted money, when he's been allowed to go out and spend, he brought you Max Scherzer. He brings you big fishes all the time when he's given that leeway. And I think the issue that Nats fans had this winter in particular is, okay, this is the first full season of James Wood in the bigs, right? This will be the first full season of Dylan Cruz in the bigs. If you have faith in those prospects, if you believe that they're legit, and I would have to believe that everyone in that organization understood completely that James Wood's a badass. James Wood is a superstar MVP caliber type of player, right? Add to that core. You're not as far away, I think, as maybe ownership's making it seem, because the one thing you continuously hear when it comes to why they are not spending is they're not ready. They're too young. No one wants to hear that. The time is now. This is Major League Baseball. This is pro sports. You don't have forever and a day to go out and put a contender together. Now, I will say this, right? When you won the World Series in 2019, it gives you a little bit of leeway. It buys you some time, so to speak. But the baseball gods and, the world had other plans. You had COVID that you had to deal with. So you winning the World Series in 2019, you know how I would describe that, Max? It's similar to the Lakers title in the bubble, right?
Mickey Mouse?
Mickey Mouse almost. Low-key. But I'm going to give more respect to the Nats because that was a real season. They earned it.
And they won all 4 games in the World Series on the road.
Yes, and it was tough feat. It was awesome. Them not being able to capitalize off of it, though, I think puts a real damp towel, a damp, wet blanket over this situation, man. And it is tough. Rosenthal goes on to say, amongst the current Nationals, the only player signed beyond next season is K-Bear Ruiz, somebody that Rizzo acquired from the Dodgers back in 21 for the Scherzer and Trey Turner deal. Here's the thing about K-Bear Ruiz, if we're being real. If he just turns into an average catcher, that deal looks amazing. I think it's like 8 years, $50 million. That may be the route that the Nats need to go moving forward. Try to get on guys early and hope that, hey, if they develop into just an average or above average player, you're getting a steal financially. But with K-Bear Ruiz, all of the numbers that you look at with him, he's awful, right? He's not really good behind the plate defensively. He started to hit the ball well to start this year, but that's really cooled off. And if we're being objective about it, Rosenthal goes on to say these numbers, according to StatCast, rates poorly as a blocker and a framer and is only average as a thrower. So he was one of the worst catchers in Major League Baseball a season ago, in the year before as well. So it's like the one guy that you have locked up long-term isn't really good. When you look at guys that they have drafted and developed, the hit rate is just not very good. And especially with the first round picks, and think about how high some of these picks have been over the years. Like, this is why I continue to describe it as it's like a deadly cocktail. See, if you just had one or the other being an issue, not both, maybe people are more lenient. Maybe Ken Rosenthal doesn't go scorched earth. If you were drafting and developing guys well, but the Lerner family simply just wasn't, able to extend resources financially to get veterans, then okay, that's a different issue. If it was the other way around, if the Lerners were going out splashing cash everywhere, and then you weren't hitting on your first round picks, then maybe people, would give you a pass. But when both of those issues are at the forefront with this team, it's a deadly cocktail, as I continue to describe it as, man. It's tough. It's tough because my big thing is is there confidence amongst the fan base that this gets better moving forward? And that's the ugly part of this. The confidence would be as if they were able to sign James Wood, Mackenzie Gore, and CJ Abrams long-term. That would be a win for the organization. But we know based off of, one, the way those three guys are playing, and then two, the organizational track record, is probably not going to happen. But Ken Rosenthal went scorched earth on the Washington Nationals yesterday. I will tweet the link out via The Athletic. It is at NELL_BTP. Ironically enough, Radio Gold happened this morning. Mike Rizzo, the general manager of the Washington Nationals, he joined the Sports Junkies this morning, and we're going to play a couple of cuts from that conversation. Max, if you can help us lead into the first one and kind of introduce what this is.
Yeah, this one's him just kind of responding to the piece. This is the second part of what you and I listened to before the show. So here we go.
And to comment on the article, like I said, I got a summation from our PR people. I didn't read the whole thing, but yeah, there's some validity to some things that he said there. I think that it was odd timing because we've won 7 out of the last 11. I think we played pretty well. We swept the Orioles, and we took a 2-game series against the Braves, and now we got this tough West Coast trip, which going out to Seattle and the West Coast is never easy. So we'll be grinding away. We've been grinding all year. I'm proud of the way the effort that they put in from the players and the coaching staff and that type of thing. You've seen some young players, baptism by fire when you're throwing. You're throwing Hassel and Dalen Lyle in against Robbie Ray,
right.
A Cy Young contender. That's no picnic. But I think that you're going to see the development of these guys come and that type of thing. These guys are developing at the big league level. We've been doing it for the last 3 or 4 years. We've developed players that have won division titles and world championships and that type of thing. So I think that some of those comments were, I think, some of those statistics were kind of cherry picked and that type of thing.
Yeah, it's Mike Rizzo. I give him credit, right? Because it's a tough spot to be in. You just got eviscerated by one of the most respected columnists in all of Major League Baseball. And now you kind of got to get on the radio the next morning and defend it. And it comes after a 9-1 loss, albeit against, one of the hottest teams right now in the American League, talking about Seattle. And it was a good night for you because James Wood hits a homer. But, money-making Mitch Parker wasn't very good last night. In fact, in 4 of his last 5 starts, he hadn't gone deeper than 4 innings. So it's been very, very tough for that young man and this group as a whole. Now, like Rizzo just explained, over the past week and a half, 2 weeks, they have turned a little bit of a corner and have played a lot better. relieving, Sims and Poche is helped out the bullpen immensely, as some people would think. But, like, I don't know. There's a sector of Nats fans out there, the homers, as I would call them, that say, well, is it really all that bad? Because if the bullpen had just been a little bit better this year, then maybe this is a 500 ball club. Be realistic about the woes of this bullpen and the other issues that exist with this team. Their lack of aggression, running the bases, some of the defensive woes that we've seen. It's not that there are more than just reliever issues with this group, is what I would say. And let's just be real. If the relievers were better, you probably win 2 or 3 more games. And it kind of sucks for you right now, because I think coming out of spring training, there was this thought process that, hey, we want to compete for a wild card spot. That's what they're telling everybody. That's what they believe internally as an organization. And this year, the National League absolutely loaded when it comes to the wild card race. Playing 500 ball may not even keep you in the race here for the entirety of this thing. So it'll be interesting to see what ultimately happens. I want to let you hear one more Mike Rizzo cut. We got Britt Giroli, Ken Rosenthal's colleague at The Athletic, to join us to give her thoughts on this coming up momentarily. But here is Mike Rizzo on one of the biggest complaints amongst Nats fans, why this team has the 27th ranked payroll in all of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I think I got a summary of it from our PR people. Yeah, I mean, people, Ken and a lot of other journalists, and they ask for comments all the time about a bunch of stuff. I rarely make comments to I'm
gonna hop in here real quick on that, because I was a bad host and tossed the wrong cut to our guy Mad Max. But one other thing that Rizzo hit on this morning was, like I just alluded to, why the Nationals payroll has been one of the lowest in all of Major League Baseball. And I think there was a lot of frustration this winter in particular about them not spending. And any fan out there, it's cut number 2 in that. Yeah. Here's Mike Rizzo on why, ownership hasn't spent the money that people, expected them to.
I mean, ownership is shown that when they feel that we're ready to win, they spend, and I've never had a problem with that. Hopefully that continues, and I think that the day's coming that we're going to be in a position to win, and to show support. That means buying some free agents and that type of thing. But it's also we went for it in a different way back in the first rebuild, and let us not forget, we've done this before. Ken and the other journalists can point out, the flaws of how we're doing this rebuild. It's taking too long and that type of thing. But the one thing they can point to us and not point to hardly any other teams around is we've rebuilt from the bottom up when MLB owned this thing to winning a championship. And we did it in 13 years, from start to a championship. And we're, unfortunately had to rebuild again, and we're rebuilding now. It's taken, it's since the Soto trade, it's been 2-3 years of a rebuild, which is painful, and we all know that. But if Ken or anybody else can't see where this organization is as far as talent base and that type of thing, then I don't know what to tell anybody. The fans see it, the players see it, the opposing team, the opposition team sees it, and they see the talent and that type of thing.
Yeah, Mike Rizzo doing what he can to try and defend his moves and to defend the organization. I give him a ton of credit for it, because it's not an easy position to be in, but it's to talk about being rebuilt from the ground up from when you first came back to DC. Like, come on, Mike. That's not really relevant at this point in time. What's relevant is you lucked up and were able to draft Juan Soto. You deserve a ton of credit for that, by the way. That's not something that I'm trying to, slight you for or knock you for. But if you were actually handling business properly within the scouting department, and they've made significant changes to that group since the beginning of the 2023 season, you would have some guys coming up the pipeline that are going to be ready to go. That's the big issue right now with the organization, to me, more than the spending problem. They cannot draft and develop and retain talent. And if you can't do that in this Major League Baseball, you're not going to have much success. Just getting rolling, though, here on the Kevin Sheehan Show. Lynnell Willingham sitting in for Kevin. We'll take you up to 1 p.m. Eastern time. Number to call is 301-230-0980. We'll take a quick time out. When we come back, Britt Giroli of The Athletic joins us next to give her thoughts on her colleague Ken Rosenthal going scorched earth on the Washington Nationals. That is next here on the Team 980. Three zero 230-0980, the number right here on the Kevin Sheehan Show. Take you up to 1 p.m. Eastern time. You're tapped in to the youngest in Charles, Lynnell Willingham, sitting in for Kevin. We'll take you up to 1 p.m. Right now, we continue our conversation on the Washington Nationals with our pal, Britt Giroli, senior writer for The Athletic, covering Major League Baseball. Give her a follow on the old X app at Britt_Giroli. That is BRITT_GHIROLI. Britt, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
What's going on, Lynnell? I'm good. How are you?
I'm so happy to hear from you. We'll give a little radio insider here for a second. I have got the chance to work with Britt a couple of years back, producing some shows for her on 106.7 The Fan. She is obviously doing great things, one of the best writers in all of Major League Baseball, so make sure you check out her stuff in The Athletic. Super cool having kind of a full circle moment with you, my friend. Happy to have you on the airwaves, and I hope the family is doing well. I want to get right into it, though, Britt. Your colleague over at The Athletic, Ken Rosenthal, dipped his pen in blood before writing the piece on Washington yesterday. What kind of stands out the most about this piece, Britt? And do you think? Do you hear? I guess where Ken is coming from.
Yeah, so, full disclosure, I read that piece before it went live because Ken knows I'm familiar with the Nationals, was on the Nationals beat, still live in this area. And I think that there were a lot of fair points made in that article. But to me, the one thing that, and I said this to Ken, and I think he did a good job hammering it, is the developing. The development for the Washington Nationals needs to get better. I think Mike Rizzo, who declined to talk for the story, would agree. I think anybody who objectively looks at this team, whether or not you feel good about the future and some of the guys they got from the Soto trade or not, I think you have to look at it as who are the Nationals developing? Who are they making better? And I think that has been a big hole. It has been a sore spot. It's been something that they've tried to address. And until we see the fruits of that labor, I think you have to continue to question, how they are developing players within their farm system.
Yeah, I think that is a big issue. The way I describe it, Britt, is kind of like a deadly cocktail of ownership not spending and you're not drafting and developing your own talent. Like that's a tough spot to be in if you want to be a perennial winner. I always give the ownership group a little bit of leeway, Britt, because face it, they didn't get to capitalize off of the ticket gate post World Series, the spike in merchandise and the spike in popularity and interest. How much do you think that played a role in their lack of spending here over the past several years?
Yeah, I do think that is an interesting thing. And, I was on with our friend Ben Standing on this fine station the other night and brought up that same point that I do think when you go at ownership, you have to go out with the caveat that the learners have spent. Yeah. They have spent when the team has been good. They have spent when there is a chance for the team to compete, and they have spent on pitching. We know those always haven't turned out to be good contracts, but they paid Patrick Corbin a lot of money. They paid Steven Strasburg a lot of money. You could make the case that they have struggled and have not spent money on position players, and that would be accurate, right? We've seen Juan Soto go, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper go. It doesn't instill a lot of confidence in some of the young position players they have right now signing. But I do think if you are the Lerner family, you have to kind of look at it as, okay, is this going to be the winter that we start to try again? Is this going to be the time here? Because, 2019 was a long time ago now. Yeah. You have to start to see the fruits of the rebuild. You have to start to see things move forward. And I think both them and GM Mike Rizzo kind of have to move with a sense of urgency now to get this team good quickly while these young guys are under team control.
One thing that Ken reported on, Britt, that I actually wasn't privy to, I think the Post had it as well. I must have just slipped through the cracks for me. They, started contract negotiations last spring with CJ Abrams, but those talks obviously didn't go too far. He's not a Boris guy. He's represented by Rock Nation, so you would think that gives him a little better of a shot of signing him long term. But like of the three guys that I'm thinking of here, talking about Wood, Mackenzie Gore, and CJ Abrams, who do you think has the best shot of re-signing?
God, that's a good question. I think that they really looked at Abrams and wanted him to be a part of the future. And then I think there were some character issues, obviously, down the stretch. And, that gives teams pause because you're not just investing in the player, you're investing in the person. And so, I think probably I'd give the edge to Gore right now. I wish I could say James Wood would be the guy, but, I think based off of his agent being Scott Boras and, the kind of superstar potential he's already shown, I think unfortunately that ship might have failed unless some of that money that we heard that was big, $400+ million that was ticketed for Juan Soto, maybe some of that money is in the coffer still and they can use that on a James Wood because that's kind of the only way you're going to keep a guy like that. Even though he is several years away from being a free agent. So, I think you have to do something. I think you have to extend someone because you look up the road, Lynnell, to Baltimore, and you look at how quickly a promising young core can kind of not look quite as promising anymore, right? None of those guys are locked up. They're getting 1 year closer to free agency this year in what will probably be a lost season. And so I think the Nationals, and for so long Mike Rizzo has said they were trying to follow the playbook of the Orioles, I think you have to look at what they've done a little bit with caution and say, how do we avoid this happening? And that to me is the biggest question right now. And it starts with locking up young guys and also making them better up here, which the Orioles have failed to do as well. Guys that come up here now are not finished products. This is the change in baseball from 10, 15 years ago. Guys come up and they still need developing. They still need help. And that is something that we have to see the Nationals execute and execute well.
One other thing that Ken hits on, Britt, we only got a couple moments left with you. I appreciate you making some time. I guess I'll end with a scouting question. I know they've made some significant moves to kind of revamp that scouting department over the past 2 years. Do you look at Mike Rizzo, who is one of the longest tenured head of baseball ops in the league, and go, maybe his eye for talent just isn't the same anymore because the game has changed quite a bit since he first taken over?
Right. Yeah, I don't know if I would say that. I'm not intimately involved with that team on a day-to-day basis. I think they've made some changes in certain departments as a way of kind of saying, we need to get better. We need to do different things in the process. I think a lot of teams are looking at their processes and constantly fine-tuning them. I think the proof is going to be in these young guys who are up here. I mean, the guys they got from Soto in that trade were already really good prospects, right? They weren't like the Padres' 10th and to 15th best prospects. So a lot of that developing was already done for them. Now, can they take the next step, right? James Wood isn't a guy who needs a lot of work. I want to see the Nationals' 4th rounder make the big leagues. I want to see, a guy that was in the 6th or 7th round out of nowhere, and the Nationals added a pitch, and all of a sudden he's a lot better. You see that with other organizations.
Where's our Spencer Strider?
Right. You don't see it as much with the Nationals. And that's something that even going back to 19, when I was on the Nationals beat for the Athletic, me and Jesse Doherty, who used to be with the Washington Post on the Nats beat, would talk about that. Like, who have they developed? And for a while, they covered it up by spending money, by buying the Max Scherzers and the Corbins and such. But they really have to now, if they're not going to spend money, and Ken pointed this out so eloquently, you got to do something. They don't develop and they don't spend money, and that is a lethal combination. So I think, for Mike Rizzo, they really need to look at their processes and say, okay, how can we support this young core that we traded for? It was an excellent trade.
Right.
Mike Rizzo is an absolutely fantastic trader. I don't think anybody can argue that at all. I think the argument is, are they going to be able to support the guys they traded for to create a window of success? And that is the question.
Yes, indeed. We will patiently wait, and I'll be biting my fingernails to see how they finish leading up to the trade deadline coming up in about a month and a half. But Britt, always good catching up with you, my friend. We will talk soon. I hope all is well with you and yours.
Okay, thanks. Take care, Lynnell.
That is Britt Giroli, one of the absolute best, talking all things seam ball. Give her a follow on the X app at BRITT_GHIROLI. Britt Giroli, senior writer for The Athletic. Yeah. It's a tough spot to be in because I think when this was introduced yesterday, and I sat in for our guy Grant Paulson yesterday on Grant and Danny, listening to Danny go scorched earth about this, it changed my opinion on it a little bit. But after hearing Rizzo this morning on the Junks, after listening to Britt, I don't know where the blame should be pointed, if I'm being honest. Like, if we had to do a blame pie.
I mean, we know where the blame lies.
Yes.
Because we've experienced this for 20 years with a football team. It starts up top. It always starts up top. And it's just that spending, that covering up, as Britt put it, it's starting to wear thin, and people are starting to see through it. Yeah. And it's wearing out its welcome, I think, among a lot of Nats fans.
Yeah, it masked a problem that, even in 19 when they had won the World Series, back to what Britt was kind of alluding to, outside of Juan and Strauss, like a lot of the guys that, had success on that team were bought.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real issue of drafting and developing talent. Like I said, to open up the show, I don't know which one I'd rather be, because I think there are some teams in Major League Baseball that have the problem of ownership won't spend money, but they're having a 3rd-round catcher come up and turn into, an all-star caliber player, right? Like, they're having guys come out of the woodworks, come out of their farm system and have success. It's just tough. I guess the bigger question is, too, like, is there a confidence level amongst fans that this will change? I have a confidence that it will change because they've made some of the ancillary moves that you need to have. And this goes back into the Ken Rosenthal piece. Eddie Longos, a longtime scouting executive with the club, replaced Dijon Watson as the farm director. Chris Klein, the director of amateur scouting for 14 years, has moved into a special assistance role, replaced by Danny Haas from the Diamondbacks, another organization that's actually drafted pretty well. John DiPagulia, who enjoyed a similarly long tenure as the team's head of international scouting, resigned without explanation. That's another weird one to me. I think if you look at all the great teams in Major League Baseball, you got to have a little international flavor on your roster. We had our Juan Soto. We got K-Bear, but we know K-Bear is not very good. I don't know, man. When I see those moves, and this is something that's happened here in the past 2 seasons, when I see those moves, I go, okay, they're not turning a blind eye to the fact that they can't draft and develop talent. They're not ignorant to the fact that they can't draft and develop talent. They're just not doing it well. They're just not doing it well. That's like with the Wizards for a long time, right? We were ticked off as a fan base because Ernie Grunfeld had bad pick after bad pick after bad pick. And what were we all doing? Calling for him to get fired. And eventually, the plug was pulled. I think what you're seeing with the Nats is after years of, not really having guys, get developed and come up and make an impact, I think they're starting to recognize it internally and going, hey, how do we fix this? How do we fix this? Because the ironic part, that's what I keep saying, the irony of the piece coming out, I don't think they're super duper far away. I don't. When I look at this Nats team and what they need right now, what would make them a legitimate, bona fide threat in the National League and be a wild card team, I think they need another two more relievers, I would say, at least 2 or 3 more relievers. Give you some options there. I like Kyle Finnegan as your closer. I think you need some more beef in your lineup as well. And depth. Right now, like, if Nathaniel Lowe gets hurt at first base, who's your first baseman? Josh Bell? Come on. So it'll be interesting, man. I think when you talk to fans, it's weird, though. When you talk to fans, I hear fans complain more about the lack of spending rather than them not drafting and developing. And I wonder, like, where does the frustration actually lie amongst the fans? And do you all have confidence that Mike Rizzo and company can turn this thing around and turn the Nats back into a contender in the National League? 301-230-0980 is the number. I want to take your calls on the Nats on the other side of the break. Your confidence level, your reaction, first and foremost, to the, Ken Rosenthal scorched earth piece that he wrote yesterday, and your reaction, right? And then also, do you think this Nationals team, do you have the confidence that this organization will get back to that level that they were throughout the mid-2010s, culminating in 2019 with the World Series? 301-230-0980 is the number. We're back next here on the Kevin Sheehan Show.
All right, last night, as we've been talking about all morning, the Nats, they fall in a late-night matchup to the Seattle Mariners, 9-1. Mitchell Parker earned the loss, giving up 7 hits, 4 earned runs, and 3 home runs. Pablo Torre is open to pursuing legal action against the University of North Carolina if the university fails to comply with FOIA requests to produce records relating to Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson. The Pacers, they take a 3-1 lead over the Knicks, 130-121. Tyrese Halliburton with a historic night. He had a triple-double, posting 32 points, 12 rebounds, 15 assists, and 0 turnovers. He becomes the first player in NBA playoff history with 30, 15, and 10, and 0 turnovers. The Oilers, they take a 3-1 lead over the Dallas Stars. They win 4-1. Corey Perry gets the game-winning goal. And tonight, 2 teams looking for the finishing blow. OKC tries to close out the Minnesota Timberwolves at 8:30 on ESPN, and the Florida Panthers attempt to finish off the Carolina Hurricanes at 8 on TNT. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, and hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1, and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the stream and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports, and that's what's trending.
Kevin Sheehan Show right here on the Team 980. We're always live and free on the Odyssey app as well. Tapped into the youngest in Charles, Lynnell Willingham. We will take you up to 1 p.m. before we dish things over to Chris Russell, who is at Capital One Arena. He just posted.
Oh no!
He just posted. He's got a hard hat on in a vest.
Where's this picture?
Is he a part of Clark Construction?
He might. Listen, the Rooster wears many hats.
Yes,
Lynnell.
he does. The tweet says, "Welcome to the under construction staging of area ice level of Cap One Arena. They've moved tons of equipment to create the space." And of course, he ats the Team 980 and ats Monumental. That Rooster, we'll have to ask him about that.
I have so many questions
when he gets in, and I know he had on a hard hat.
I need a picture of him in a hard hat. I just saw a flash of Sammy Silver come up on the in the video. So shout out Sammy. Shout out the Hockey News. I guess they're having beat reporters out there.
Yeah,
I'm not sure for what. I guess they're doing ice takedown today, maybe. But that feels really late for that.
Season's been over for a little while, but who knows? We'll see when Chris gets in here. We'll make him explain what the hell he was doing out there.
He's always up to something, man. Always up to something.
Want to take your calls, though. 301-230-0980. Ken Rosenthal going scorched earth on the Washington Nationals in The Athletic yesterday. The headline reads, Nationals remain one of MLB's bottom feeders despite a lengthy rebuild. We had Britt Giroli on from The Athletic to kind of expound upon her colleagues' thoughts, and Britt, very close to the situation, covered this Nats team on the beat for several years, and her perspective always appreciated. I think my big picture takeaway from the piece, moving forward, and this is the question we'll ask at 301-230-0980, two-parter, your reaction overall to the piece and your confidence level that the Nats are closer to being out of the rebuild than maybe Ken Rosenthal believes. 301-230-0980 is the number. I don't know, man. I flip-flop back and forth. It feels like every 2-3 minutes about how I actually feel about this thing, but let's see what the people think. Let's go to Ian in Vienna. What's going on?
So I have zero confidence in the Lerners, Mike Rizzo, and Davey Martinez. I think the Lerners have quit on Washington, and this notion that it's a rebuild is just another way to say they cut payroll in 2020. And we can discuss how much the pandemic impacted the Lerners, but even to this day, the Lerners are one of the richest ownership groups in all of baseball. The way they treat this is pathetic. Ted has passed away. Mark Lerner is 71 years old, is barely interested in keeping this team here. And I'll give you an example of how they've quit, not just on their payroll, but do you realize the Washington Nationals are the only, and I repeat, only Major League Baseball team with no stadium rights deal and no MLB patch deal?
Yeah.
That is free money.
So Ian, to your point, I know there was a piece that came out right near the conclusion of spring training that they're working on that. They're also trying to get a jersey patch sponsor as well.
Yeah, they haven't. They haven't. As of today, it doesn't matter that they're working on it. I'm working on being a billionaire. What does that even mean? So no, they have not done anything. And it's classic Lerners. Their valuation and self-valuation is much greater than reality. This is an absolute bottom feeder team, and it's only bolstered by the Marlins because since 2020, they finished 4th or 5th in the NL East every year. And it's because the other three teams, the Mets, Phillies, and Braves, have good farm systems, active owners, professional general managers, and good managers. And this notion that Mike Rizzo's good, it's amazing when they win, Rizzo gets a lot of credit. When they lose, which he's done a ton in his career, there's no mention of him because he's such a good guy. Davey Martinez has one winning season in his entire time here. That's insane. That's just ridiculous. They've quit on this team at every level, at the business level, at the payroll level, at the ownership level, like everywhere. And no, we've seen it with Harris to Snyder, or Snyder to Harris. until they start spending and trying, this is going nowhere. What is going to change next year that couldn't have changed this year? Nothing.
So,
go ahead.
The one thing I would say, well, and I'll let you rebuttal because I think you're cooking right now, and I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think with the growth and development, first of all, the season's got to wrap up first, and James Wood has to continue to hit the ball well. Dylan Cruz, when he gets back and healthy, has to pick up where he left off before the oblique injury. Mackenzie Gore and Jake Irvin got to be consistent throughout the entire regular season, not just the first half. If the youngins show promise, I think they will be active and spend money this winter. I do think this is the winter.
What? You could have made this same argument last year.
But here's the thing, though, Ian. Here's the thing, Ian. You didn't know James. You knew James Wood was good. You didn't know he was going to be this good, right? I think seeing a full year of him and Dylan Cruz in the majors and knowing, hey, where are we at for our youngins? Is CJ going to, bounce back off of his all-star campaign? I think seeing another full year of it maybe gives them the okay to go spend, because we've seen it before. Like in the mid 2010s, like they weren't afraid to splash cash at all. So I know they will spend.
But that was Ted Lerner.
Not Mark,
Ted Lerner,
and that's the tough part.
And not Mark, who's been on record, tried to sell the team and couldn't get anywhere near their valuation. And Mark, again, is 71 years old. Have you seen him? Oh, looks older, like 80 years old, walking around with a cane. His kids don't want to own the team, and they've been on record about that.
Yeah.
So is Mark Lerner at 71 years old going to be like, wow, James Wood and Cruz are good, I'm going to spend money? And how much money? Because is he going to outspend the Braves, Mets, and Phillies? No.
Probably not, because the money's not that long. We appreciate you as always, man. We got a bunch of other guys lining up, but that's how you kick off a round of phone calls, people. It's tough, though. And I hear Ian makes a lot of great points. Like, everything he's saying, I think, is spot on. What Britt Giroli hit on and really pointed out is kind of the big issue here. Amongst Nats fans, I think when you ask them what their issue is right now organizationally, the first thing they mention is the lack of spending. As Britt Giroli alluded to, and I totally agree, I think Ken Rosenthal hit on it in the piece as well. To me, the lack of spending isn't as big of an issue as their inability to draft, develop, and retain talent. That's what all of the other perennial contenders throughout Major League Baseball do, and this team just doesn't. Go to my guy Bones out in the city. What's going on, Bones?
Hey, good morning, Big L. Shout out to my main man, Matt. That was, your man Iron, he definitely was cooking, you got me going behind Iron, right? But check this out, right? He's correct, because these people act like they don't know how to spend no money. They have not spent any money on a pitcher or a bullpen since Max Scherzer. We drafted Strasburg and we drafted Dill, but we haven't spent any money on a pitcher since Strasburg. On a different team, Mackenzie Gore would be recycling. Mackenzie Gore would be a bullpen pitcher. Our bullpen is garbage. We have had a garbage bullpen for the last 5 years, and that's where we be getting beat at. The bullpen. Yeah. Whoever comes in, you understand, as a reliever and a finisher, they always lose the game through the reliever or the finisher. We need somebody that's going to spend some money and get some talent up here in the bullpen. That's where we be losing games at, the bullpen and on the mound. I love y'all, man. Thanks for taking my call,
appreciate
man.
You bringing it strong. Mr. Bojangles types LOL in the chat, and I totally agree, Mr. Bojangles. He was bringing it. I do want to correct Bones on one thing. Did he say we drafted Giolito? Oh, Giolito. Okay. Well, yeah, Bones, you were cooking for sure. 301-230-0980. Your confidence level out there as a fan base that the Nats will turn this around. And do you have confidence that they'll be able to retain this crop of young talent that they have right now in-house? Dylan Cruz, James Wood, CJ Abrams, and Big Mac, as I like to call him, Mackenzie Gore. And I do want to correct, Bone. Mackenzie Gore leads the damn
Mackenzie Gore's that deal right now, dude. He is throwing
he's the gas. He's one of the best pitchers in all of Major League Baseball right now. He looks like a legitimate ace. So to say he should move to the bullpen stuff. But I do get the overall bigger picture point here. I think if you wanted to say that about Jake Irvin, like not in the bullpen, but Jake Irvin on a good team is probably like your number 4 starter.
Correct.
Wildly inconsistent, but that's the thing I'll be looking for to end the season with those guys. Will they be more consistent? Because if they show consistency, that's maybe what this ownership group is looking for. They're going to splash some cash. My guy Marcus in Largo wants to tap in. Good morning, my brother. How are you?
Hey, what's up? How you doing, Lynnell? Look, the one thing that I think the last 2 calls are forgetting is they are getting out of the TV deal this year. This is the last year of the TV deal with Max. Okay. Now, I do think from everything else that needs to be said, if Mark wants to reinvest in selling the team, which I think he should anyway, go ahead and sell it to Ted. Because that's Ted really wants to get this baseball team. Do I think Ted can win with this team? Yes. Once he understands everything, I would keep everything intact. Because Ted will probably keep Rizzo in the way it is, and he'll tell Rizzo, do what you got to do to make this team competitive. And Rizzo will do what he needs to do to make it competitive. But Mark does need to sell the team. Yeah. Okay, I will say that. I think they were about to sell it a couple of years ago. You're out of the
but here's the
deal
thing,
now.
Mark. Not to cut you off, Mark. Here's the thing. Their valuation of the club is out of this world. They're trying to charge an arm and a leg for.
What do you mean?
The price. The price to me that they were asking for is why the deal didn't get done, and I don't think it will get done because they're trying to rob the new owner blind.
Well, technically now you can do that, and here's the reason why: because now you'll have your fresh TV deal.
Right.
So I can understand. 3 years ago, I don't think they knew they weren't going to be able to sell the team 3 years ago because of that arbitrage of the TV deal they had with the Orioles. That wasn't going to happen. Baseball knew it wasn't going to happen. They knew it wasn't going to happen. Now it's different. Now it's different because with the TV deal out of arbitrage and you can get your own, it makes it more approachable now.
Yeah.
It makes the team more viable. Because they're more viable, you have – Lynnell, everyone keeps running their mouth about they're not spending money. Now, they've used the excuse to have a TV deal. Now, I understand they pulled punches and did what they did 10 and 15 years ago. I get it. I understand that. Mark is a totally different – he's totally different than what his father is. Yeah. I get that too. But I just think that it would make better sense for Mark being out of the TV deal. He can get the money that he wants to sell. Because if he can get the money that he wants now to sell, he can get out. Yeah. Ted can come in because that's probably who they want to get the team. Baseball does. You get Ted.
Mark, we gotta drop. I just realized I'm horrible. We're way over the clock. We'll take a quick timeout. When we come back, if you got more calls on this, we'll take it. Do you have faith in the Nationals getting out of this rebuild phase? Your confidence level that they will get things turned around. That is next here on the Team 980. First hour in the books here on the Kevin Sheehan Show, right here on the Team 980. We're always live and free on the Odyssey app as well. Lynnell Willingham sitting in for Kevin at about 11:30. Danny Rouillet, one half for Grant and Danny over on the Fan, going to join us, give us his thoughts as the Commanders opening up voluntary OTAs today, the full 90-man roster on the field at the same time, rookies, free agents, all for the media to see. We'll get Danny Rouillet's thoughts on what he's expecting from the Burgundy and Gold coming up in 2025. Also, as we move throughout this 11 o'clock hour, two very prominent NFL analysts, but two differing opinions on the Washington Commanders and what they will be in 2025. We'll let you get to that as well. We're live on YouTube. You check this out in the chat. Say what's up. Our guy Eric Leach saying, "Iron with the heat." You damn right. And brought the heat. Talking about the Washington Nationals, your confidence level as a fan base that this group will turn it around, that Mike Rizzo and company will get begin to receive the fruits of their labor of wearing it on their chin for the past couple of years. Third fewest wins in Major League Baseball since 2019. So how long does this rebuild take? This is an interesting perspective we're about to get. Our guy Kurt in Hagerstown telling us to relax. I think I may agree with you. What's going on, Kurt?
Yeah, man. I mean, when we made that deal, when we got rid of Soto, which I thought was an excellent deal, we got a lot of good prospects. I did want the catcher from San Diego that we didn't get in that deal. But that being said, all these guys are babies, infants, man, in their development stage. Woods is a rookie. We haven't even seen Hassel yet. House, Abrams, Cruz. I mean, this is a awesome core that we're building. When we made that deal, I wrote down 2027, 28, 29. Why waste money on a big name pitcher that we can't compete with the Dodgers? Because that's really who we're going against right now. We can't compete with the Dodgers. So keep doing what we're doing. I think we're right on schedule, man. Why waste money? Like, look what the Phillies have spent in their payroll, and what have they got from it? What we don't want to do is we don't want to look like Baltimore, where you build a nice young core, but you don't support it when they become great. And that's not what Rizzo does. If you look back at his track record, he knows when to make the big moves. He knows when to strike. So just let the man do what he does. He's one of the best at his job. When we get to the point when we're competing for the pennant, he'll go out there. He'll get a Schilling and a Randy Johnson, two pitchers and a reliever, because that's all we need, really. Once these boys grow up, man, and become in their prime, watch what happens, man. I'm not worried at all. Zero
That's
worry.
A very interesting perspective, Kurt, and I do hear what you're saying. I actually would take it a step further. I think they're a little bit closer, maybe than you gave them credit for. I agree with your timeline, right? You're talking 27, 28. I think if the youngins, like I said with Britt on the phone, if the youngins continue to show progress throughout this season, the consistency is the big thing I'm looking for with Mackenzie Gore and Jake Irvin. But as far as Abrams and Wood, and hopefully Cruz is able to hit it well when he comes back, first of all, they're going to have a dilemma in the outfield, Kurt.
The kid Hassel,
man,
people don't even know about. Everywhere that kid's gone, man, he's just going to be one of those guys that hits 300. He's going to be what people love in this town, because he reminds me of Anthony Rendon.
Just gets on base.
Once he gets going, and then House, he should be that power guy. We need to get him in the weight room, get him on some creatine, blow him up a little bit. Also, we need to get some of these young guys and bring them in right away, saying, "Look, man, you're gonna be the 6th, 7th, 8th guy, man. We need that 6th, 7th, 8th inning, Tyler Clippard type guy. Somebody comes in that just owns that position. They don't have to be the reliever. They like their role and they own it."
Look, I think, Kurt, maybe that's what they need to spend some money on, man. I appreciate your call as always, brother. Enjoy the rest of your day. Yeah, but what did I say though, Max? Every caller that we've taken thus far, what if they all omitted? They haven't spoke about the lack of development. The money thing to me is not the issue here. It's a part of the problem, for sure. I'm not ignorant. But you got to draft, develop, and retain talent. That allows you to go spend money. Kind of like the last caller was alluding to. Lap is in D.C. wants to chime in. What's going on, Lap?
Hey, what's up, Lynnell?
What's going on, bro?
Happy birthday to DOC and didn't, man.
Yes, indeed. Oh,
And,
you ruined the surprise. We have something later for
man.
that, but okay.
Okay. I got you. Man, I'm just gonna say this, man. I told you guys on this radio station. I said, man, Nats probably never win another one again. You know what I'm saying? It's just a sad franchise. Yes, I'm gonna tell you why. Because I was talking to B. Mitch one day, right? And I said, well, do we have 2 World Series or 1? And he was like, well, it's who you talk to. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what? Like, do we have 2 or not? Like, so when you got a franchise, we don't know if we got more than 1 World Series, which technically we supposed to, and in which we won that World Series a long, long time ago. That's sad. So the only one we legitimately can count is the 2019 season. So we probably never win again. Now, baseball is a different sport, you know, compared to the other sports. You do have a chance to kind of develop players and build players, and you could probably contend, you know what I'm saying, a lot sooner than other sports. But, man, I just don't like the way they handling it, man. And I'm so glad the Commanders are doing good. I hope we keep that up because the Wizards are sorry. I'm disappointed. The Nats can be sorry for a while till they develop, and they might need to sell the team, Lynnell. I think Ted just need to buy the team, even though I'm sick of him, too. He almost on my hit list like Daniel Snyder, but I'll take him. You know, at least he's approachable and he'll talk to the media. But the Lerner family is some trash, straight garbage,
oh my God,
bro.
okay.
And they need to get it. They need to get it together, man, because this is sad, man. We spent all these taxpayer dollars to get a freaking baseball team here, which a lot of us don't even like baseball. Let's keep it real. You know what I'm saying?
And don't
like
forget,
baseball for real.
Don't forget, Lap, the city paid for Nats Park.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
that's tough.
I just think it's going to be a long time coming until they get something together. And we better enjoy the World Series. And we'll see what happens with the development of the players we got because we do got some talent. But we'll see, man. But I'm just disappointed, man. It's just really sad.
Lap, we appreciate you as always, my man. Right now, I want to go live out to Ashburn as Cliff Kingsbury addressing the media before the Commanders hit the practice field.
So you could have gone out and looked for some other jobs, and you didn't. Why did you want to be back this year?
Yeah, DQ has created a tremendous culture. The organization has as well, just starting at the top with Josh and then AP, type of people they brought in. So I'm excited to continue to learn from DQ and these other coaches and continue to try to build this thing.
You know, you've added Debo, Laramie, and all that to help to obviously building around the office and also around Jaden. Just how do you go about like building off of his first year, and what things have you seen from him already that maybe he's even improved in?
Yeah, he works extremely hard. I mean, that's all he kind of thinks about is how he can get better, and watches a ton of film, watches a ton of football overall. And so that organically really takes care of itself in a way when you have a guy who wants to be that great. And then just the pieces we brought in, high character guys that have done it at a high level, continue to try and take another step with the guys we have coming back. We're just working to get better. I think overall that's a group that's hungry, not just Jaden, but it's a group that's works really well together, very coachable, and wants to improve as a unit.
Cliff, we saw the note you left for Adam Peters on draft night to take Josh Connerly. How was it being the GM for that pick, and why for you was taking an offensive tackle important there?
Yeah, you know, I've known Adam a long time, so we always have fun with each other. But just being around Josh, the type of person he is, his makeup, competitive spirit, the desire to be great, and just he's young, and I think the skill set is definitely there, and the sky's the limit for the talent. I think building it, you see in our division, the team who just won the whole thing, they built it starting up front, and I think to try and keep up with those type teams, you got to continue to do that and stock that room. Injuries happen. You know, we're really impressed with the line last year and the job they did, but injuries happen, and you always got to try and get younger, and the more depth you have in that room, the better you're going to do.
And obviously, I'm sure you had to get away for a little bit after the season, but your communication with Jaden over the course of the last few months, how did that work out? Did you guys meet in person, or was it just, text, things like that? How did you guys
yeah, just text and calls. he like I said, his mind is never very far away from the game. So if he sees something or has a thought, he likes to reach out and talk through it. And so that relationship has really grown, I think, kind of figuring out where we want to continue to get better at.
You talked about Connerly and building up that offensive line. How do you kind of see all those guys? Like, where do you see him playing? Is he a tackle, a guard? I
think DQ said it. I mean, there's really one guy that we see is solidified through and through, and the rest are going to compete and continue to try and get better. And wherever he fits in, whether it's starting this year or next year or the year after. That's what I love about this culture DQ has. Everything's earned, and he'll have to earn it as well. And it's a competitive group right now.
And when the season ended with Jaden, was there anything you really emphasized to him going into the offseason that you wanted him to work on?
No. He's a guy, like I said, organically it's going to happen as you continue to work with each other, and he continues to figure out his game and this offense and mess with the offense. So it was more just get some rest, because he wanted to get right back into it. So hey, get some rest, get away from it, and then attack it. And he's done that. I mean, he is very highly motivated to be as good as he can be, and that's always exciting for the organization.
Regardless of where they end up, how will a bulked up offensive line affect you as a play caller?
That's where it all starts as a play caller. So the ability to have the entire playbook open and feel comfortable with whatever you call. I think it is always made easier on that group is really good. And I thought last year they were tremendous for what we asked them to do, and playing with the rookie quarterback and really helping him along. And hopefully the pieces we added this year will just make him that much better.
What roles do you imagine for Jalen and Ja'Cory specifically this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty loaded group, so they're going to have to kind of get in where you fit in with this group. And there's not a ton of footballs to go around. So both guys have really attacked it. Great athletes, bring a lot of speed, dynamic players. And so we'll kind of see how this progresses throughout the offseason.
You coach quarterbacks in their first year under your system, the second year. How much does it make a difference when a smart kid like Jaden, when he gets to stay in the same continuity of offense and have that muscle memory?
Yeah, it's huge. I think you look traditionally through the NFL, the guys who've had a ton of success have been able to stay in those long-term, all-time greats, and just the comfort level, and then you being able to take the ownership of it and understand it inside and out, where now you're correcting people. You don't even need the coaches, and he's kind of getting to that point.
We haven't seen Jaden yet on this offseason, but there's been some speculation over some pictures online that maybe he's put on a little muscle. Does he look different physically?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's still pretty lean, but he's definitely worked really hard at his fitness in the weight room. And I mean, he's here early and stays late and does all the things. So I'm sure I haven't seen his weights, but I'm sure that he's a little bit thicker than he was.
And then you saw a lot of Debo in the NFC West. How excited are you to have a guy with that much versatility?
Yeah. One of the best competitors I've gone against as a coach, just seeing him twice a year there in Arizona. I was always so impressed with how Kyle utilized him and did different things with him. And he's a football player through and through. Even being out here at OTA is just, you get him on the field and he's got a natural feel for things as he's figuring this offense out. But couldn't be more thrilled, having seen it up close and personal for those years to actually get to work with him. He's, like I said, he's a great football player.
Hey, Coach. Second year with you and Jaden, obviously a lot of the conversation is, well, everybody else has a full season to tape on Jaden and also you as a play caller now. How much do you change and evolve your offense for the sake of changing, and how much do you try to anticipate the fact that they do have all that film on you now?
Yeah, they have a lot of years of play calling on me, actually. So every year you just evolve and really try to maximize who you are as an offense. So we'll see where these new guys fit in. We'll see what we did well last year, what we think if we can improve on, and then go from there. But like I said, the guys I've seen that improve year to year are the really hard workers, and that's what Jaden is. So I would expect him to take another big step.
And I don't know if you can really quantify it, but if you can, or however you can answer it, how much are you pulling from your experience from Kyler's second season for Jaden's second season?
Yeah, I think throughout my career, just guys that I've been able to work with in year two, like I said, the biggest deal is just the ownership of the offense and the mastery of it, and where they are very comfortable and checks to the line and correcting guys, and the timing, the rhythm of plays, their footwork marrying up with every concept. I think that's where they really take a huge step. And traditionally, the second year has been a massive jump for those guys.
Hey, Cliff, the running back room specifically, and Brian Robinson Jr. obviously is a big year for him. Up and down year last year. What do you see from Brian, and what do you expect kind of from that room and from Brian, especially this year in that running back room?
Yeah, he's been really focused. The biggest thing that came out of last year, I think, was that any of the guys that we asked to go in and played at a really high level. And Eckler in his role and what he was able to do, I thought he really had a resurgence, and all the other guys, whether it's J-Mac or C-Rod, whenever their number was called, they stepped up and played at a high level. But B-Rob's a guy who has played at an incredibly high level. I thought early in the year, when he was really healthy, he was what we expect him to be. And the focus this offseason has been great. He knows what this year means to him and can mean to us when he plays at that level.
Aaron McLaurin and Adebo Samuel on the field at the same time. I'm sure you're smiling already. How do they complement each other, their skill sets? How can you utilize them together as a package on the field?
Yeah, both tremendous players. Terry taking the top off, doing the things he does with his route tree outside, always scares defenses. And then Debo, just the myriad of ways you can use him, the touches you can get. He's hard to tackle. That first scan space rarely gets him down. And so just finding ways that he can continue to impact our offense and still get those other guys to football.
And that you saw Jaden bulk up a little bit. Is that something that you and the coaching staff had requested of him or recommended, or did he do that on his own?
I think just through, getting older and working out, I don't think it was anything that we really said, hey, you got to be this weight or that weight. I mean, he knows what he has to do to protect himself and where he feels comfortable playing. But the arm strength, he looks better, and you can tell he's stronger. There's no doubt.
And when you're bringing in new guys like Debo Samuel, like Laramie Tunsil, how important is this period, this OTA period, as you're learning your personnel and building that chemistry?
Yeah, it can be good. Those guys like that have done it at such a high level for so long, they're consummate professionals. They're going to show up ready to go, whether it's training camp or OTAs. But I think a lot of times for the younger players, it's pretty vital to get them in here, get them comfortable, so then in training camp they can compete at a high level and feel comfortable.
Hey, Coach, when you look at the offense last year and you assess where you all finish, is it any area that you say that this is where we want to be better this year?
Yeah, I thought, ball security ultimately kind of was our Achilles heel late in the season. Had a bunch that we can't do if you really want to be one of those elite teams. And so I think that's an area that we'll harp on all off season and try to be better at protecting the football.
And looking at one of your wide receivers that you signed this year is Jalen Lane. What have you seen from him in this early stage of the OTAs?
Yeah, he can really roll. Fast, dynamic player. Had a great college career there and very hardworking, very conscientious about his preparation, and it's really picked things up quick. We've kind of moved him around to try and challenge him inside, outside, and he's picked it all up. So I'm excited to see how he develops and does in training camp.
Hey there, Coach. At this point in the season, right, it's in May, but you, in your role as offensive coordinator, what are you working on right now, and how does that relate to the overall performance of the offense? Yeah, trying to get
the new players of the system, whether it's the young guys, the rookies, or the vets we brought in, really acclimated and comfortable. Some of the veteran guys have a pretty good feel for it. We really streamlined a lot of the stuff we did last year to make sure that this year, with this offseason, was more skill development and not as much scheme. And so really it's about going out there. We're not trying to scheme people up this time of year, but see how you can execute your one-on-ones, win your one-on-ones, work your route technique, things of that nature.
And a popular topic is the schedule, right? Old NFL, schedule drop and all of that. How much do you look at the schedule now, or is it still kind of like, we'll just wait until the season gets here and go week to week?
Yeah. I mean, you go week to week, really. The Madrid one will be cool. I'm a big Europe guy, so I'm stoked about that. But other than that, it's, every time that drops, it's the NFL and every game looks tough on your schedule.
Having potentially more talent on your offense, obviously faster, younger, how is it going to be for you to keep everybody happy and not have, these egos come to fruition because maybe they're not getting their call in a particular game?
Yeah, I've never had a great player that didn't want the ball, and so that kind of comes with the territory. But that's one thing I think that DQ has created, where it's the team above anything else. And these guys that had their success last year and got their touches, they know bringing Debo in, there's going to be less, but we're going to be better. And I think when they're able to sacrifice for that and understand that the ultimate goal is winning, then it all works itself out. But you want those guys. I mean, they're going to be pissed. I'll get cussed out a few games, but it's just comes with the territory. You'd rather have really good players cussing you out than bad players cussing you out. So.
And then, when you look at the receiver room, obviously with Terry, Debo, and now Jalen to go with Luke and some other guys, do you feel like they're more interchangeable, that you could play them at all the same positions if need be?
We're working towards that. And Noah Brown being back, I thought was huge to get him back. We got to get him healthy, but a lot of guys who understand the system now, played at a really high level, played great in critical situations last year, and so that'll help the young guys come along. But most of those guys can play their inside or out, which is really what you're hopeful of.
Just one more quickly about the schedule. When you see all these primetime games, do you get excited about the opportunity to be showcased on, national TV, or do you look at it more as it screws up my week of typical week of preparation?
Yeah, I get more excited for the players. This is why they do it, to be in those moments and play in those games and work that hard their entire lives to get here. So to have their friends, family, everybody get to see them in that showcase, that's really exciting for those guys. So preparation is always going to be tough in the NFL. It's going to be a busy year. I think it's more you got to appreciate when you get to an opportunity to play on those stages. Yeah, I think just mastery of the system more than anything. Like I mentioned last year, had him learn inside and outside, really kind of overloaded him, but you can see the comfort level is there this year. I mean, just watching him move around. He's not thinking as much. He's playing fast and letting his natural gifts kind of take over, and that's what we want to see. So I expect him to take a big jump.
It's Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator. 301-230-0980, the number right here on the Kevin Sheehan Show. Lynnell Willingham sitting in for Kevin. Wow. Just heard from Cliff Kingsbury for the first time this offseason, the offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders. We are 99 days away from the kickoff of the regular season in the National Football League. Commanders out on the practice field today for voluntary OTAs. It'll be the first time the media gets to see the full 90-man roster up close in person. We'll have some developments throughout the show in terms of who's there and who's not, because it is, of course, voluntary. Right now, though, I want to go back out to the guest hotline for the second time this show, where we find our pal Danny Rouillet, the co-host of Grant and Danny weekdays 2 to 6:30 on 106.7 The Fan. Danny, appreciate you making some time for us this AM, my man. How are you?
You got it, dude. Doing well.
So wanted to ask you, obviously, as we get geared up for, voluntary OTAs here, the number one thing that's on your mind that you're looking forward to.
This is always so hard because we get to see so precious little, right? I mean, and what they're doing a lot of times is glorified walkthroughs, T-shirts, and shorts. But it's just a reminder of how good the vibes are, right? And that's not to say that no other coach in the past has had that good vibe. I mean, people were enthusiastically coming to Ron Rivera's OTAs on their way to a 7-win season. So it's not necessarily 1-to-1. No tackles are made, no stats count here from the end of May. But still, it's like it's almost a chance for me to revisit how magical and how much fun last year was, when some of the same names are now talking and walking through that door and have that same zeal and enthusiasm for kind of getting back to work in the business of trying to win a bunch more football games, building on what they did last year. Ultimately, it's how some of the young pieces fit in, though, as well for me, Lynnell. I'm thinking about some of the guys that are carrying over from last year, this year's crop of draft picks as well. Where do they fit in? What's Luke McCaffrey going to be this year? Was it, fun project, or, a guy that's the fifth receiver? Is it, Jalen Lane's time to shine as another gadget player? What's Ben Sinnott going to do? A second-round pick that was an afterthought for most of the season. Things like that, I'm always kind of curious and hungry for when it comes to OTAs, because, I know exactly what Zach Ertz is. I know exactly what a lot of these offensive linemen are. I know a lot of what, Bobby Wagner is going to do each and every day. There's no mystery there for me, but it's kind of getting those reports that I'm voracious about them on some of the guys that we don't have as much data points on yet.
The offensive line, Danny, I would say is probably the most improved position group on this football team, and I think it was really smart on this coaching staff and front office to really target that during the offseason and try and do whatever you can to bolster the line around Jayden Daniels. With an improved offensive line, who do you think, outside of Jayden Daniels, who do you think may be the biggest beneficiary of that?
It's got to be the cadre of running backs, right? I mean, those guys have people like me basically saying, I'm not really interested in that group. I know that, your arms are a little bit sore from raising them up high and cheerleading for Brian Robinson. For the rest of us, I'm tired of watching a plodding pedestrian, guy with a lack of vision slam into the offensive line and, gain a yard or 5 feet or whatever comes from it. So to me, the running back group that I don't think a whole lot of, I like Austin Eckler, but we know how much, he gets injured. Right. You can't overuse the guy. So for me, I don't think much of what they've assembled there. I still keep advocating to kind of go out and market and find somebody and more of a scat back, somebody that's, kind of what we used to think of in my day, Lynnell, as a third down back. Mm-hmm. To me, that's now an all down back. That's what you're supposed to have in my view. They don't think that way. They think differently about their running backs. They want more Chris Rodriguez, more Brian Robinson, more thump. We'll see what Jacoski Merritt brings to the table as a rookie from late in the draft. But to me, the running backs who have a lot of people down on them, myself included, if you actually get maybe some plus run blocking or some better looks against lighter boxes, maybe all of a sudden their productivity goes up and shut people like me right up, right? I mean, that to me is the first thought. I mean, obviously it's about Jayden Daniels, first, second, third, all the way down to like 1,000th. But yeah, to me, it might be the running backs where you go, hey, we're getting screwed over a couple of times this year as guys are getting knocked back or not moving the pile. Maybe there's something to that.
Joined right now by Danny Rouillet, co-host of Grant Danny over on 106.7 The Fan. You can check them out Monday through Friday, 2 to 6:30. Follow Danny on the X app at Funny Danny. The defense, Danny, is obviously the biggest issue with this football team. We all point to that going into the offseason. Mm-hmm. If I told you that I felt like they were worse on that side of the football, what would you say?
Might be right. On paper, I don't know how much they've improved.
Yeah.
Now, they clearly have a plan. These are thoughtful people, Adam Peters, Lance Sumark and company. They know more than us, and I'm very aware of that. But it's just one of those things where I go back to previous regimes that weren't competent, that weren't very good, and I would go, that LeBron James meme when he's has the two hands and he's pointing at the guy that was open, right? I can't remember if it was J.R. Smith or somebody else, but I'm doing that at a couple different positions, defensive end. I don't really know what we're doing. Look over there. A couple of spots in the secondary. I would have gone out and upgraded in a major way, most specifically at cornerback. They went, second round draft pick. Amos, a kid I like an awful lot after, going through a couple different schools, but I thought that was a wonderful pick. That was a guy that was a late first rounder in a lot of mocks, early second to get him where they did. I was thrilled with that. Very, very happy about it. But instead of going after, one of the more marquee names at corner, which I think they have the cap space for, they said, no, we'll go Jonathan Jones. And that's kind of he's kind of a Mikey Sanders still sort of player. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Right. Some versatility and some savvy and some chops, but not that world-class, I'm going to lock you down type quarterback. And I think they're counting on an awful lot for Marshawn Lattimore that I frankly didn't see. So I'm sort of looking at this defense going, they don't have as good a pass rush. I still don't know if these answers are there at cornerback. You're razor thin at linebacker, and you may not even care about that just because you maybe have something in mind for Frankie Louvu, where he's now kind of a poor man's Micah Parsons on passing downs. He's going to be almost exclusively rushing the passer. Whatever it is, I don't know the answer, and I think they do, and that can frustrate fans a little bit when you see something, you go, this looks like a glaring issue. Maybe they've got a great plan for it. Maybe it's awesome. I just don't see it just yet.
So the one area, two acquisitions that they made, Danny, that I look at and go, that's a clear downgrade, and I'm kind of skeptical about it going into this thing. You swapped out John Allen for Javon Kinlaw and Jeremy Chin for Will Harris. I think most people that watch football will tell you that they downgraded at those two positions. So very curious to see, what those two gentlemen are able to do and how they're able to step up. I want to go back to the offense for 1 second here, Danny. Cliff had a very interesting barb during his pre-practice presser saying, I expect to get cussed out a couple of times this year for different guys wanting the football. It now feels like they have a surplus of options on offense. You draft Jalen Lane, you've traded for Deebo Samuel, you've already got, Terry McLaurin in-house, Zach Ertz coming off a big-time year. Do you think that a statistical regression could be in line for Terry McLaurin because of the other guys that they have on offense? And do you think if Jalen Lane knocks their socks off during OTAs and training camp, do you think it makes them maybe press pause on a McLaurin extension before the start of the season?
So I think those are mutually exclusive. If Lane is of high quality and is going to be impactful, I don't think that necessarily affects the McLaurin signing or an extension there. That's my own view. Somebody could tell me different, as if to say, hey, we've already got his appearance ready on, or his apprentice or his future replacement, kind of ready on deck, and we'll train him up and then maybe franchise Terry for a year and then move on. I don't think it's going to go that way. I think that everybody's going to come together and get an extension done. So, but the first question, second here, in terms of a regression, I absolutely think that's happening. And it's no reflection on Terry McLaurin.
Right.
He had more touchdowns last year than any other 2 seasons of his career combined. Those can be fluky. I mean, again, I'm old enough to remember when Calvin Johnson, one of the great receivers in human history, I think had like a 1,600-yard and 2 touchdown season, which ruined the fantasy season for yours truly. So, those kind of things are fluky and can be fluctuating. Doesn't mean that Terry McLaurin didn't improve in the red zone. I mean, it's not awesome, but a 13-touchdown season probably, goes back down to something like 7 or 8, which is still outstanding, still Pro Bowl, still, kind of potential knocking on that door of an all-pro team. So I just think those kind of things are circumstantial and they can fluctuate a little bit, right? You think of, as you said, the mouths to feed, the different ways to do it. How many times is, he tackled it to 2 and that touchdown goes to Rodriguez or Brian Robinson or Jaden Daniels on a scramble? Or, how many times does, that one, blade of grass that actually happens to go on the out of bounds line turn into something that's no good, and now we got to kick a field goal? I mean, those things, again, kind of come and go in terms of it. He'd been criminally unlucky over the course of his career, talking about McLaurin in terms of scoring touchdowns. And, last year was kind of an overcorrection for that. So I do expect a bit of a regression there. Plus, you're playing better teams, more good defenses on the schedule, another year for everybody to kind of get, data sets under their belt and figure out how to stop Kingsbury, this offense and company. So, yeah, I think normal regression is expected, but it's not one of those, oh, my God, what happened to Terry? He'll be just fine. He's got a track record.
We will let you go on this, my friend, kind of a bigger picture question. Where do you rank Washington on the threats to the Philadelphia Eagles in this conference?
Okay, so you got to run through some of the teams, right? I mean, again, this is the on-paper stuff, and this is what's fun in May. Who knows? I saw that segment that Kyle Brandt did. He's got Tampa as kind of the ultimate threat. Respectfully, I don't buy that, but it's good off-season content. So, all right, who are the threats? Detroit, obviously on paper, that's a Super Bowl favorite. They should be. They're right there. I wonder how formidable they would have been if Aiden Hutchinson hadn't gotten injured. As they kind of continue to retool this offseason, Detroit has to be one of those examples. They can score with anybody. They're really, really good. Now you get into kind of that level of variance. I'm not really sure how good Green Bay is going to be or how good Minnesota is going to be from that division. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be good. I think they've got a good program going in Minnesota, but I'm not 100% certain about that when the rubber meets the road. Is this that 13-14 win team or the group that 2 years ago won 7 games? I have no idea. Out west, I think Seattle I've got pretty well pegged, is perfectly fine. Not great, not bad, probably that 9-10 win range. San Francisco is the team that I don't quite feel or understand why odds makers seem to think they're going to be a damn juggernaut. And I'm looking at this old group with a core that's, a bunch of, frankly, a few Hall of Famers. I don't know that they're going to be healthy for 17 weeks. I don't know that all of a sudden they're going to be themselves again. But, Vegas has them as one of the favorites to be a Super Bowl contender. And, there are some folks like me that are going, probably, a bunch of guys get hurt. That's a 6, 7, 8 win team maybe with Kyle Shanahan and company at the helm. So Washington is certainly in that mix. So, if you want to put them second, you want to put them third or fourth or fifth, all totally fine. And I'm sure I'm missing a couple teams. Nobody from the NFC South really is a consideration for me. But again, I have no idea what it's going to look like year 2 with Caleb Williams and company in Chicago and Ben Johnson. If he's as good as advertised, all of a sudden you look up and you go, damn, they got a pretty decent offensive line, a quarterback that's prodigiously talented, and a whole bunch of really good skill guys. That's pretty nasty. Maybe they're a threat. So this is kind of the fun part where you prognosticate and you have no idea with injuries and scheduling quirks and, the stuff doesn't click or best laid plans, et cetera. But the point to me is Washington is absolutely in the mix, even if they don't have like a 12-win caliber season, because they're playing good teams like Kansas City, Philadelphia a couple times. I think Dallas will be improved. They could be as good or better as they were last year and maybe not win as many games just for, crazy circumstances happen. But yeah, Washington's in that club, I think.
Danny, we appreciate you making some time for us. As always, make sure you check out Funny Danny and Toby Altizer today on Grant and Danny, 2 to 6:30 on the Fan. Appreciate you, buddy.
See you, my friend.
That is Danny Rouillet. Look, I think what we ended on there with Danny is pretty interesting. He's being open, honest, and objective. You could always count on that from our guy, Danny Rouillet. I think it is very fascinating to me. One of the most fascinating topics of this offseason. Where does Washington rank amongst the top threats to Philadelphia in the NFC? We'll have a couple of prominent national NFL figures dish on that next. This is the Team 980.
All right, the Nats last night, they fall in a late night matchup to the Seattle Mariners by a score of 9-1. James Wood continues to show off his power with the lone home run for the Nationals. Pablo Torre has announced, or PFT, or Pro Football Talk has announced or reported that Pablo Torre is open to pursuing legal action against the University of North Carolina if the university fails to comply with FOIA requests to produce records relating to Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson. The Pacers, they took a 3-1 lead over the Knicks last night, 130-121. Tyrese Halliburton with a historic night. He had the triple-double, 32, 12, and 15 with 0 turnovers. He becomes the first player in NBA playoff history with 30, 15, and 10 and 0 turnovers. The Oilers, they take a 3-1 lead over the Dallas Stars. They win 4-1. Corey Perry had the game-winning goal. And then two teams looking to close out tonight for looking to close out the final blow tonight. Oklahoma City tries to close out Minnesota at 8:30 on ESPN, and the Florida Panthers attempt to finish off the Carolina Hurricanes at 8 on TNT. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, and hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1, and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the stream and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that's what's trending.
It's Kevin Sheehan Show right here on the Team 980. We're always live and free on the Odyssey app as well. Lynnell Willingham in for Kevin Sheehan. Let's take you up to 1 p.m. Chris Russell is going to stop putting together the new Cap One Arena and put the hammer and hard hat down, and he'll come host from 1 to 4 right here on the Team 980. Big thank you to Danny Rouillet joining us. Always love, getting the chance to catch up with him. Top of the 12 o'clock hour. As we start the final hour of the program, I want to get into Louis Riddick and Kyle Brandt. Louis Riddick, we know of ESPN, one of the best, in my opinion, football analysts in the NFL, former GM, former scouting director, very plugged in, always respect his opinion. He had some interesting thoughts on who he thinks is the biggest threat to the Eagles in the NFC. And then Kyle Brandt of Good Morning Football on the NFL Network also had some thoughts on who is his biggest threat to the Eagles in the NFC. We'll let you hear from both of those two gents next. But Seth Walder, one of the lead analytics guys at ESPN, just tweeted out the first edition of the ESPN NFL Football Power Index rankings for the 2025 season. Basically, ESPN's power ranking system. At number 1, they have the reigning defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. At number 2, they have Patrick Mahomes in the Kansas City Chiefs. Number 3, Lamar Action Jackson in the Baltimore Ravens. 4th, Aiden Hutchinson in the Lions. 5th, Josh Allen in the Bills. And then number 6, the old Washington Commanders. So according to ESPN's Football Power Index, he's got the Commanders as the second biggest threat to the Philadelphia Eagles in the entire conference. Let me just be very clear about my thoughts for what Washington has the chance to accomplish in 2025. And I go back and forth on this each and every day because I understand that variance year in, year out is going to be huge in the National Football League at certain spots. And if we're being objective about this, Washington had a horseshoe up their ass at the end of last year. Not saying that they were lucky, but they had the ball bounce their way a lot. And when you take that into consideration, I do have some doubts and reservations about just how good they can be. But then I go back to the quarterback. As long as Jayden Daniels is under center, how in the hell do you not feel like this team has the opportunity not just to make the playoffs again, but to win the Super Bowl? I don't think I've ever in my life said that about a Commanders team and actually meant it in my heart of hearts. But when you have a bona fide top 5 guy at the position, you're in the conversation each and every year. FPI rankings got the Bengals as the 7th best team in the NFL. Their defense blows. You know why is there? You know why they're ranked 7th? Because they've got one of them ones. They have a quarterback. When you have a quarterback that is electric as Jayden Daniels, that is a difference maker the way 5 is, you can compete with anybody, meaning you're always perennially going to be in that short Super Bowl contender conversation. So fans out there, some of you out there are a little bit scary to lean into it because you're not used to success. You're not used to being a fan of a winning organization. Get used to it. Get used to it. The days of Washington being ranked outside of the top 10 in a power rankings are over. Look at the quarterbacks that are ranked out of the top 10. There is no elite quarterback on this list outside the top 10. They got the Niners at 11th with mid Brock Purdy. The Texans are at 13 with CJ Stroud. That one I kind of feel like is a slight. I'm kind of a Texans guy. I think they're going to be a lot better this year than people are giving them credit for. But so on and so forth. All of the elite quarterbacks, the 4 horsemen plus Jayden Daniels, are in the top 10. So the days of Washington not being favored preseason in a preseason ranking are over. And that's good. That's good. One thing that Cliff Kingsbury hit on as we played some of his press conference for you earlier in this hour, he referenced Jayden Daniels' arm strength being noticeably better.
Whew. Isn't that terrifying to any team that isn't ours?
Absolutely. And it's crazy because it goes back to one of the first observations I had about him. And this is why I'm sad I'm not out there today. Part of my heart is aching right now because getting to see it from the very beginning, you get to see small growth.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first saw Jayden Daniels practice, the first ever OTA practice I went to, I don't know if I told you this, Max. You may have been on overtime with me that very night. He just looked nonchalant, lethargic.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't look like he was really putting much zip or spin on the football. But as we came to realize, he's just an effortless thrower, a smooth glider. So it's always going to look like he's not putting forth the most effort. With an improved arm in terms of strength,
crazy.
He's already got what they like to call a whip. I think it only gets better.
And the other thing, like you mentioned us doing overtime last year, the thing that we talked about quite a bit was just the way the ball jumps when it leaves his hands. It's unlike anything I've seen from a quarterback in this town alone, but like it's just very rare that you get a guy with that kind of pop with his arm.
Especially the pop, it jumps off because it doesn't look like he's putting too much effort into it. The other thing that really stands out, it stood out right away during OTA's training camp. Him and Zach Ertz, leaving training camp, I knew Zach Ertz was going to have a big role. I just didn't know he would be durable over the duration of 17 weeks. The ball placement, the touch, the accuracy, like I think we're forgetting. We haven't seen him in a while. Not everybody's, privy to having the NFL Plus app. There's a certain caged animal that lets me use his on occasion, and I get to go back and watch games. We have a bona fide star at the position, and for that reason, they're always going to be in the conversation as long as he's healthy. 301-230-0980 is the number. We'll take a quick timeout. When we come back, Louis Riddick of ESPN and Kyle Brandt of Good Morning Football listed their top contenders to the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC. What do they think about old Washington? We'll let you hear from them next as the Team 980. 301-230-0980, the number to reach us right here on the Team 980. We're always live and free on the Odyssey app as well. Lynnell Willingham sitting in for Kevin Sheehan. As we take you up to 1 o'clock, Chris Russell will take over from there. A lot to get to here in this final hour. It'll be burgundy and gold centric. 99 days away from the opening kickoff of the 2025 NFL regular season. I can't wait. I'm genuinely getting like goosebumps.
I want to hit the fast forward button.
You know what I'm saying?
I need it.
Can you plant me in July? I don't even want to skip ahead too far.
Yeah.
Plant me in July.
Get
me
us to camp. Get me
ads
to
popping. Get me to the joint practice against the Patriots where we're whipping their ass all up and down the streets of Boston.
I love it.
Get me there. I'm fired up, Max. I'm telling you, you can't fake this. I'm giddy. I'm geeked up because as fun as last year was, nobody expected it.
Mm-hmm.
Now having the added expectation onto it, normally, right, with teams in the past in this market that have had success, the best way to judge them, I think, in terms of what they will be over an extended period of time is how do they handle success and that immediate season following. And I think because of who is at the helm of this thing, because Dan Quinn is, to me, one of the best leaders in pro sports, they will be ready. They will be ready. If anybody knows anything about, not putting the chicken before the egg, so to speak, Dan Quinn is the architect of 28-3. He's been there before. He gets what it means to be up, feel like you're on top of the world, and then have it all crash. I think those experiences that he dealt with in Atlanta, the follies that he dealt with in Dallas, all make this Washington Commander football team a hell of a lot better. And I do think they have the right people in the building that won't allow them to be complacent. They won't. Because guess what? I still think they're a disrespected, slighted football team. I do.
They've been slighted by a few people this offseason.
They have. A lot of people. Look, the first I walk out and, I love me some Nick Wright. I'm a big Colin Cowherd fan. The facility sucks. The facility is probably the worst show on sports television. LaShawn McCoy, what's the other? James Jones, Acho, Chase Daniel. I feel like quarterbacks are just good at doing the TV bit. But the topic in their A block is Jaden Daniels' sophomore slump inevitable? Is it inevitable? And I think that's a very interesting way to frame it, a very interesting way to look at it. Everyone feels like some sort of regression is going to come because he was that damn good a season ago. Second best EPA in the NFL in the fourth quarter. He was best when his team needed him the most. I'll never forget the Atlanta Falcons Sunday night game where he straps the team to his back like a jetpack and takes the hell off. He's got that in him. So no matter what happens up front, no matter how healthy they are at wide receiver, I got 5 on it. And I know what happened to C.J. Stroud. This kid's not C.J. Stroud. They may both come from the same hometown in Cali, the IE, the Inland Empire. But Jaden Daniels is different. Cut from a different cloth, as the folks like to say. But as I mentioned, a couple of people have slighted Washington this offseason to feel like, look, last year was a flash in the pan. You won a bunch of games at the buzzer. Some folks are drinking the Kool-Aid. Kyle Brandt of Good Morning Football had this to say about whether or not, had this to say about who is the biggest threat to Philadelphia in the conference.
Number one, this might be a surprise, but it shouldn't be. Number one, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Heck yeah,
guys,
Kyle.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are under the radar. And Sarah, you know this.
Yep.
They smacked the Eagles last year. Look it up. They smacked them. They held Saquon in check. Baker went absolutely nuts. They also knocked the Eagles out of the playoffs the year before. Also, Nick Sirianni lost to them a few years prior when it was a different iteration of the Buccaneers. Eagles fans know that the Bucs always play them very tough. Maybe they're not the shiniest, brightest team in the league, and they don't have the exposure that maybe the Commanders had last year, and I don't have the Commanders on my list. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been a nemesis for this version of the Eagles, and I have them as number one team that the Eagles do not want to see at the end of the season. That's my list.
Kyle Brandt coming off the top rope. It's a steamy take, right? But when you really get down to the nitty-gritty of it, it's a very much improved football team in Tampa. adding Emeka Egbuka to the wide receiver trio of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan. Like, they're all of a sudden deep as hell at that position. And Trey Palmer, right? And then defensively, this is where it gets scary. You add Hassan Reddick to Kalijah Kancey and Vita Vea and Yaya Diaby and Chris Braswell. They have a very formidable front seven, a pass rush unit that honestly scares the hell out of me. It does. Now, what they have in the secondary is, right? Less than to be desired. I think they got some real issues at corner. I know they're expecting a lot out of their second-year nickel, Tyke Smith. But to say that Tampa is the biggest threat to Philadelphia in the NFC, come on, Kyle. Come on, Kyle. Now, the other two teams on this list, I think there's an argument to be made for. The other two teams on this list are the Detroit Lions and the LA Rams. The Detroit Lions and the LA Rams. I think this conversation, first and foremost, is subjective. I think it can go either which way, and I don't think there's a wrong answer. So I just feel like Kyle's not having Washington in the top three, though. And I'm hard on them because I don't want to be called biased, but y'all know I love this group. I think Washington, if it all goes well, could win the whole damn thing next year. But I also could see them taking a huge step back and being an 8-9 win team. We let you hear from Kyle Brandt of Good Morning Football. Here's what Louis Riddick of ESPN had to say about who the biggest threat to the Eagles are in the NFC.
Right now, who do you think is the biggest threat to Philadelphia in the NFC?
It's Washington. It's Washington, Green, because they're making all the right moves. Look, I know we want to conveniently say, well, Jaden Daniels can't have another season like he had last year. Well, why not? Why can't he? Did Cliff Kingsbury go anywhere? No. Did they add some protection on the offensive line? Yeah. Laramie Tunsil and the drafting of Josh Connerly are huge. It's huge. It all started up front with them anyway. Deebo Samuel, that acquisition is huge because we know he's a multi-tool player. And we know that a guy like Jalen Lane, who they draft from Virginia Tech, he's an absolute stud in terms of his ability to add another speed component to go along with Terry McLaurin. And really, you know what? Here's the biggest thing. If they hit on Trey Amos, the corner that they draft out of Ole Miss, and we saw Washington just get obliterated in the NFC Championship game by Philadelphia through the air on the perimeter. If Trey Amos can be that dude, I'm telling you, everything is looking up for Washington. Everything is looking up.
Louis Riddick with a super strong take on what 2025 could be for the. This is why I get fired up. This is why I get geeked up, because that's somebody I trust. That's somebody that knows ball, that's done it professionally, that's evaluated talent, grinded tape.
In this division, might I add.
You know what I'm saying? In this division, in this organization, I believe at a point in time.
Correct.
So he's done it. He knows what it looks like. There is no internal bias from Lou Riddick. He also was the same guy that said last year, don't sleep on Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. He said that before the season, before they won 12 games. So when Lou Riddick talks, Lynnell listens. Lou Riddick thinks they're the biggest threat to the Eagles in the conference. If all things go well, I agree with that as well, right? If all things are equal, right? In terms of health, things of that nature. And I understand it, right? This is the National Football League. If there's one thing that has tremendous variance year in, year out, is health. And last year, Washington was one of the healthier teams in the National Football League. Now, I do think part of that was their preventative maintenance and things of that nature. They earned the right to not have injuries last year. They did everything right. If you do everything right again and get lucky and don't have injuries, I don't see why Washington cannot be right back where they were a season ago and even get over the hump. Now, that's me being like the good genie, right? There's a good genie on one shoulder, there's a bad genie on the other. The one thing I have concern about with this group, is the secondary. More so than the pass rush.
Really?
More so than the pass rush.
Tell me more. Why?
Because if Marshawn Lattimore, he's the guy. He is the straw that will stir the drink for this group defensively.
It does hinge on him and Trey Amos.
You know what I'm saying? If those two guys can lock up the outside corner spot, and honestly, the hell with Trey Amos for a second. They have depth. The moves they made this offseason, I think, tells you their confidence level in Marshawn Lattimore. It ain't too high. And I'm not saying that as a negative thing. but it ain't too high. You went out and brought in Super Bowl champion Jonathan Jones.
Mm-hmm.
You brought back Noah Igbenogany, albeit on the cheap. And then you drafted a corner in the second round. And look at it this way. I know from a well-placed source, if Connerly wasn't there at 29, Amos would have been there at 29. So they would have been comfortable spending a first-round pick on a corner, a pretty decent money, vet minimum money on bringing Igbenogany back. And then you bring in a guy in Jonathan Jones. You think Jonathan Jones is coming here to ride the pine? No. He's coming here to compete. So Marshawn Lattimore, I hope you spent a lot of time with the heating pad on you. I hope you did some RDLs if you pick up what I'm putting down. That hamstring needs to be intact. Because if it's not, I'm telling you, this secondary will be in trouble. I genuinely feel that way. Here's the thing about corner. Very volatile position in the National Football League. I love me some Trey Amos. I think he could play. Trey Amos has to get coached up, though. It's a foregone conclusion that Trey Amos walks in here and earns that starting outside corner job. It's not. Same thing on the offensive line. I love this mantra and attitude that they've gone with. And it seems like it's a little bit of ass-kissing going on with Laramie Tunsil. Because this is the third time now this offseason that they've said he's the only guy whose job is guaranteed.
Yeah.
Not Tyler Biadasz. The other guy that people probably point to and go, yeah, badass just started center. No, not here. You've got to earn everything. You've got to compete. That gets me excited. I love that about this group. 110%. Y'all know how I get down. I want the janitors competing for who cleans the damn toilet the best. I want the chefs competing for whose, sirloin is the juiciest. Give me all the competition. Inject competition right into me. I need it. But here's the thing about competition. The best guys are going to start. Not your favorite, the best. Wouldn't stun me at all if both of the rookies that you drafted early, Lane and Josh Connerly, wouldn't surprise me if they both weren't full-time starters in week one. Wouldn't stun me at all. You have depth at both of those positions. You've got to compete. And I feel like the guy who's got the best shot at starting, to me, between Trey Amos and Josh Connerly, I would say it's Josh Connerly. I think he can walk in and easily beat out Andrew Wiley for the right tackle job. I think he's a better athlete. The one thing we worry about with Connerly, and this is what's great about joint practicing against the Patriots. It's not that it's just the Patriots, right? You're joint practicing against a Mike Vrabel-led team. It may be a damn game out there. They may wear full uniform and play a game out there. That's how physical of a practice that will be. Can you tell that I'm excited about this? Can you tell that I'm ready?
No, not one bit.
Not a little bit. Can you tell I'm ready?
Nah.
Because I just feel like there's so many questions. For as much confidence as I have in the group, I am assuming, and so are all of us, by the way, that like this group. If you're confident in them like I am, I think they're the biggest threat to Philadelphia. I think we get a rematch in the NFC Championship game, depending on how the seeding goes. But even if you're confident like me, there are still question marks with this group. Even if you're confident like me and think that Jayden Daniels takes the next step, you think that the defense takes the next step, there are still question marks. And I want to go through some of them. The offensive line is an improved group. They're not really a question mark to me. You know what is? Wide receiver. Not because they didn't address the position, but because nothing is won on paper, right? It's May. I have questions about who emerges opposite Terry McLaurin. I have questions about whether or not Jalen Lane can produce at the NFL level. I have questions about whether or not Deebo Samuel can turn up or not. Now, like I continue to say, I'm confident in the group. I swear that I am. But to act as if everything is peaches and roses and they fixed every problem this offseason, you'd be beside yourself. You'd be beside yourself. Our guy Marcus Edlin types it in the chat. I think you hit it right on the head. Every team in the NFL has question marks. That's okay. Let's acknowledge ours, though. Let's acknowledge ours. The Eagles have question marks, damn it. They won the bowl last year. They lost several key starters on defense. They lost their starting right guard. Every team's got questions. But I want to focus on Washington's. 301-230-0980 is the number. What is the biggest question mark in your mind surrounding the Washington Commanders going into 2025?
I got one for you right now.
Let's do it. Lay it on me.
Well, this is just some breaking news from John Keim and Nikki Javala.
Uh-oh.
Terry McLaurin is not at voluntary OTAs at the moment.
Dumb.
Now, the extension I have confidence it will get done, but it is the truth of the matter right now that he is not in Ashburn. Concerning or not?
I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
I don't like it.
I have faith it'll get done.
Maybe he's just in the building.
Hopefully.
I think he's probably just I don't think he's not here.
That's true.
I don't believe that.
Not on the field or not in the bubble at OTAs today, according to Wino, Nikki, Keim, JP.
By the way, yeah. I just that worries me. It's not nothing. I'm not going to say I'm panicked over it. I'm damn sure not going to say it's not nothing, right? When it comes to Terry McLaurin not being there. Now, I fully anticipate them getting a deal done. If they don't, ring the alarm. Ring the alarm. But here's the other thing, right? Did Sam Cosmi hold out last year? No. So why is Terry holding out? You're a veteran, Terry. You're a leader, Terry. I want you there. I get you got to advocate for yourself. I get you got to fight for your money. I get the injury risk. Hopefully he's in the building. Him not being on the practice field doesn't concern me. Is he in the building? Is his presence being felt? 301-230-0980 is the number. We got a lot to chew on. Breaking news coming in here to the Team 980 via John Keim of ESPN, Nikki Javala of the Washington Post. First day of voluntary work for the Commanders that the media is privy to. Terry McLaurin not in attendance. He also wasn't in attendance late last week, leading many to believe that they're speculating that it's about the deal. Is it a big deal or not a big deal that Terry McLaurin not there for this voluntary practice? And then part two of this question, what we've been chewing on to start this hour. Every team in the NFL has question marks, right? If you feel like I do, and I'll be on board for it and puff my chest out with conviction and say it, I think Washington, if they can stay healthy, will replicate last year's success by making a deep postseason run. Will they win the Super Bowl? I don't know. But I do know if they stay healthy, I fully anticipate them staying on course with what they were last year with a harder schedule. But I would be a damn fool if I sat up here and acted like there weren't any questions with this team. What's your biggest question? 301-230-0980 is the number. Your call's next here on the Kevin Sheehan Show. Let the good times roll right here on the Team 980. We're always live and free on the Odyssey app as well. Lynnell Willingham in for Kevin Sheehan as we take you up to 1 p.m. Chris Russell, hard hat and all, going to be here from 1 to 4.
I believe he calls us clowns.
You know, the nerve of that guy.
Disrespect.
The nerve of that guy. He will take you from 1 to 4 p.m. like he does every day here on the Team 980. So definitely looking forward to that. Make sure you keep it local all afternoon long. Right now, we're talking all things burgundy and gold. Breaking news that we got from our guy Mad Max at the back end of last segment. First voluntary OTA that is available and open to the media. Terry McLaurin not in attendance. Big deal? Not a big deal. Also, what is the biggest question mark in your mind facing the Washington Commanders entering this season? Is it the pass rush? Is it the secondary? Is it the run game? Is it a lack of a true wide receiver too? What gets you quivering when you think about the burgundy and gold and why maybe they won't reach last year's heights? 301-230-0980 is the number. Our guy running through life in the YouTube chat says every team has question marks except for maybe the Eagles. 100% true. His number one concern is the pass rush. It's a good one. Washington losing their leading sack getter from a year ago in Dante Fowler. Dorrance Armstrong, the guy that led the team in pressures, he does return. How much better does he make this Washington pass rush? 301-230-0980 is the number. Kurt is in District Heights. Wants to chime in. What's going on, Kurt?
How you doing, Lynnell?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Real quick on the Terry thing, it's not a big deal yet, okay? But Terry's doing the right thing because you remember that linebacker that they played with John Allen in Alabama, went to Frisco and then came here?
Reuben Foster, yeah.
Remember first day of OTAs, what happened to him?
Yeah.
So I think Terry's doing the right thing, but I do think that, they need to get that resolved, though. They need to go ahead and get it resolved.
It's not playing around with it, right? Like, what the hell are we waiting for when it comes to a McLaurin extension?
So as far as the position groups, man, I'm a throw a curve at you, man. Somebody said the pass rush is the major concern. I agree, but the defensive line is not the major concern. I think the major concern could be the offensive line, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Not because of the lack of talent, but because it may take time to get them to jail. You got to realize you got two new pieces on the ends, and then you got a piece that's playing out of position, and then you got a piece that's hurt. So you're going to have 80% of your line playing where they weren't playing last year, okay? So it's going to take some time to get them to jail. So that's a concern. Okay, the defensive line isn't necessarily a concern because, listen, Trey Hendrickson had 17 and a half sacks. How was Cincinnati's defense?
Terrible.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's not really, see, if they had drafted a pass rusher, okay, an edge rusher, he's coming in at 245, 250, 255. He wasn't going to be an every down player anyway.
Correct.
Okay, so they need time to see what they have. They have some guys. They just want to see what they have. And then if they need to make a move later on in the summer, they'll make a move. But the main thing is, I feel like they addressed their main problem on defense, which was stopping the run. So I think they're going to be all right. I think the defense is going to be better than what people think it is. I mean, they're hung up on the sack piece, but that wasn't their problem.
No, it's not. They were one of the. I think they
run.
were top 11 in the NFL in sacks.
Exactly.
So
exactly. So you got to give, DQ and Whitney, you got to get them an opportunity to scheme up some things with what they have, and if they feel they need something, they can go and get it. Okay, they'll be all right.
And I want to give you all the correct number on that. Kurt, we appreciate you as always, man. Enjoy the rest of your day, brother. I want to give you all the correct number on Washington's sack numbers from a season ago because I don't want to lie to you all. In terms of sacks, total sacks, 12th. So Washington was 12th in the NFL last year in total sacks. And if you're being real about it, they were really 11th because there are a couple of teams tied, or 3 teams tied with 45. So Washington was not as bad as some people may think in terms of getting after the quarterback. Their sack percentage, 6th last year in the NFL. Their total quarterback pressures, that's the area where I think they got to improve. They were 26th in pressures. Got to be better than that. Got to affect and impact the quarterback more. Making that pass rush more consistent, I think, is key, but it's not more important than this run defense. If you can't stop the run, especially with the way their schedule starts out, right? Josh Jacobs, Ashton Jeanty, Bijan Robinson, Omarion Hampton. You bet your ass you better be improved as a run defense, or you're going to get caught with your pants down during the regular season. 301-230-0980 is the number. No Terry McLaurin at Commanders voluntary OTAs today. Is it a big deal to you? Yes or no? And then what is the biggest question mark that you think faces this team as we get geared up for the start of the offseason program? Let's go to DC out in Oxon Hill. What's going on, brother?
Real quick before both y'all start.
Yeah. Let's put him back a hole. We'll put you back a hole real quick.
Just from the desk of John Keim, because I want to keep this updated as quickly as possible. Players I don't see on the field warming up. Left tackle, Laramie Tunsil, and cornerback, Marshawn Lattimore.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just reporting things as I see them.
You could tell Lou DiPietro to clip this off as well.
Uh-oh.
You could tell Lou DiPietro to clip this off as well. Your ass could be on U Street messing the club up at Rose Bar, decades, huh? You could be on U Street partying it up, but you can't show up to practice? Laramie Tunsil? You guys are guaranteeing a job to a guy that doesn't even have the respect to show up? See, because I was ready for Laramie Tunsil to get out of line. I was, because he's always outside. Debo Samuel, U Street legend already.
Yup.
He's at voluntary OTAs. Marshawn Lattimore, a cat that stunk last year for them. A cat that really didn't look too hot. He's not at voluntary OTAs. That bothers me. That bothers me. Those two not being there,
concerning.
Way bigger of a concern to me than Terry, because that's not getting off on the right foot with your new teammates. What did we talk about last year with Marshawn Lattimore? Well, he needs a full offseason to get acclimated to the program and to be around his teammates and his guys. He's missing out on an opportunity to do so. You all jump down Chase Young's throat for not being at voluntary OTAs. You better have the same damn energy for Laramie Tunsil and Marshawn Lattimore. Championship teams have their leaders in the building. DC's in Oxon Hill. My bad, man, because that's going to turn me up. Hold on. I think I may have broke the headset. I can't hear anything. Hold on.
No, you didn't break anything.
I hear you. I hear you.
Do you hear him, Lynnell?
No.
I hear everybody. Oh, no. What do you got, DC?
I'm back.
Okay, Max, Lynnell, man, calm down. I understand the new guys need to be in there. Lattimore, Tunsil, all of them. Terry, I'm not worried about. It's the off season. My man, we know he's working hard. He's putting in the work. He's doing what he needs to do. And he's pretty much got the offense down pat. But the other two guys, yeah, it's concerning. Maybe Lattimore, hopefully he's still working on getting himself healthy. Tunsil, I don't know, man. He needs to be in there because, yeah, I've heard about him on U Street and everything too. But our biggest question mark, obviously, it was stopping the run last year. So it looks like we kind of shored that up. And like the other gentleman said, you know, pass rush, we was in the top 12 in the league, and you clarified that. So I'm just thinking our biggest question mark ultimately is proving that who we are is what we showed last year. You know what I mean? And a great person told me you're only as good as your last performance. We didn't win the Super Bowl. We lost in the Eastern Conference, you know what I'm saying, championship game. So we just got to prove that what we did last year was legit. And I think we either added some pieces to help us get that done. So that's our biggest question mark, is doing it again.
For sure. And I appreciate the call as always. I'm hot right now. I'm seething.
And I got a couple things. One, on DC's call, if Marshawn Lattimore is still trying to get healthy and the end of May, I don't know if I want him to see the field that much.
He's probably not going to be healthy.
Yeah.
I think that's well put.
And then from the desk of JP Finley, Laramie Tunsil rarely took place in voluntary work in Houston. I don't think this should be a surprise. Not many, or maybe not a great look on a new team, but it's all voluntary. Also, offensive line gets no real work in these sessions anyway.
I don't care.
Fair.
I don't care. Be there with your teammates. We had Sean Pendergrass from Houston radio on, myself and Denton Day, when they made the trade. And this is the exact thing that he was ripping Laramie Tunsil for. He's a me guy. You know how you shake that narrative and earn a new contract? Because that's what you got to do. Everyone knows Laramie wants a new deal. You know how you earn that new deal? Show up, Laramie. Show up. Show up. That's it. You don't even got to participate. Show up and then go get your work in elsewhere. That's what frustrates me, man. I get it, though. I don't want to overreact too much because it's voluntary. But damn. The Laramie thing is especially frustrating because of all of the narratives that you heard about him coming out of Houston and him being a selfish, me guy. You had the chance to dispel all of those rumors, all of those bad narratives attached to you, the perception of you. You could have changed it, but you didn't because you didn't want to show up to something that's voluntary. Come on, man. Anthony's in D.C. What's going on, Anthony?
So you don't want to overreact as you commit to overreacting.
Yes.
Yes. Welcome to DC Sports Radio.
Man, this is the truth of when people say the media creates a narrative. What part of volunteer?
Hold on, Anthony. I'm gonna stop you 1 second. Y'all jumped down Chase Young's throat. Y'all acted like Chase Young was the devil because he didn't show up to these voluntary workouts. Now Laramie Tunsil does it, and it's okay.
Don't put me in y'all.
Okay, I won't put you in there then. Anthony.
What part of voluntary do people not understand? When it's training camp time, then come talk to me.
Okay. Did Chase Young skip training camp?
Issue. No, this becomes an issue because the media reports it. The team doesn't put it out.
So it's not a reflection of
make any mention of it.
So it's not a reflection of the player like it was on Chase Young, right?
On any player.
On any player. And Anthony, I agree with you.
Any team.
For the most part, I agree with you.
I'm saying it's much to do about nothing. If he doesn't show up for mandatory training camp, then you got something to talk about. But this is absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to see. Move along, as the police would say.
Well,
move along. Nothing to see here.
You know, I don't want to talk to the police, Anthony. Don't reference them.
And as far as the biggest concern goes, the biggest concern is the defensive line.
Yeah.
Defensive line works in conjunction with the secondary.
For sure.
If the defensive line can produce a 25% increase in their run defense, we'll be better off.
For sure.
If the defensive line can hold the opposing offense to 3rd and 5 and beyond, then the secondary will improve because the pass rush will be there, whether it be the blitz or whatever the situation is, and you don't have to worry about being in no man's land where it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, and they can throw the playbook at you.
For sure.
So
Anthony.
the defensive line is the most important question mark right now.
I hope it turns into one of the bigger strengths by season's end because I do think the group has potential, Anthony, as you know. I appreciate the call as always, brother, man. Yeah, look, I'm going to take some time during the break to calm down and actually collect my thoughts because I'm finding out things in real time. So you're all getting my psychotic reaction on there. That's who I am, and I'm going to keep it real. These are my natural reactions. Why do y'all think I had to be subscribed to Craig Hoffman's therapy couch twice a week throughout last year? Because I'm normal? Ken is in Waldorf. What's up, Ken?
Man, y'all had me sing it. Y'all had me sing my favorite song.
What's going on, Ken?
I don't want to overreact, but damn.
What's up, Ken?
Hey, man, that was a great title. You have to admit, man. I don't want to overreact, but damn. But I feel you, man. I mean, here's the thing, man. Like the gentleman said that called just a second ago, he should be a counselor, as a matter of fact, because he kind of settles you down, man.
He's calm, ain't he?
I don't know who it was.
That's
Yeah,
my main
calming,
man, Anthony. That's my main
yeah,
man.
the voice of reason. But, yeah, the only thing I'm worried about is, not even worried about, I'm just kind of wondering about is the cornerback position. And that's your boy, the one that didn't show up. So, we just hope that he comes out and he plays the way he played, the way he played in 2022, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about it, man. I mean, when you ask the question, it really had me thinking because I think this team is pretty solid. And then along with that is the leadership. So that's another reason why I'm really not worried about these guys not showing up. If they don't show up, they don't earn it. We got enough leadership in that building from the top to the bottom. Got to get them out of there. You know what I mean? So if it was old school, it was back in the day where folks wasn't showing up like Chase Young, and the leadership wasn't there to kind of rein everybody in, then I'd be worried about it. But
see, that's my thing. See, that's my thing, Ken, and I appreciate the call. I want to continue to expound upon that. I may take the social media for this. I may take the social media for this. You all wouldn't let me rest. You all wouldn't let Chase Young rest. I got called a Chase sexual for defending Chase Young not showing up to voluntary work. And Laramie Tunsil's not here, but he's on U Street doing the Cotton Eye Joe, and you all don't have a problem? I don't know you all as a fan base, clearly. It's a Team 980.
All right. Last night, the Nats fall in the late night matchup to the Mariners 9-1. Mitchell Parker earns the loss after giving up 7 hits, 4 earned runs, and 3 home runs. Pablo Torre has relayed through Pro Football Talk that he is open to pursuing legal action against UNC if the university fails to comply with FOIA requests to produce records relating to Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson. The Indiana Pacers take a 3-1 lead over the New York Knicks, 130-121. Tyrese Halliburton had a historic night. He becomes the first player in NBA history with 30, 15, and 10 to produce 0 turnovers in NBA playoff history. The Edmonton Oilers, they take a 3-1 lead over the Dallas Stars. They win 4-1. Corey Perry scored the game-winning goal, and 2 teams looking to close out their series tonight. Oklahoma City going to face on Minnesota at 8:30 on ESPN, and the Florida Panthers attempt to finish off the Carolina Hurricanes at 8 p.m. on TNT. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, and hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1, and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the stream and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports, and that's what's trending.
One final segment to go before we hand things over to our guy, Chris Russell. We'll take you from 1 to 4. Matt Max just told me a guy that should be in the Hall of Fame, my old pal Brian Mitchell out there helping the punt returners. Love to see it. Love to see it. Voluntary OTAs underway for the Washington Commanders. 3 big no-shows, one that was kind of expected. The other 2, I have no cut cards for. Terry McLaurin not out there because of the contract negotiations that he's going through right now with the team. According to JP Finley, Terry has been there most of the OTA sessions. Terry also got married this summer as well, so maybe he's on his honeymoon. Like, I don't want to get cynical about Terry. Marshawn Lattimore.
What are you doing,
There's really
bro?
no excuse for you not to be here,
doing,
buddy.
man?
There's just none. Laramie Tunsil. There's really no excuse for you not to be here. Especially when my U Street spies, they tell on Laramie, they tell on Javante Jean-Baptiste, who've been in the club. I have no problem with guys being in the club, by the way. You have millions of dollars. You're in the NFL. But there's got to be a separation between church and state, so to speak. If the first thing you do when you hop off the PJ from Houston is go to Rose Bar, and you're not at day 1 of voluntary OTAs, we have a problem. We have a problem. So all the false starts that we've seen over the past couple of years, don't let it be a thing. Don't let it be a thing. And who's dressing them, by the way, too? Did you see the picture that went viral?
Nah, I didn't.
I'm gonna chill.
Hold on.
I'm going to chill because now I'm getting Percy Jackson in the light.
No, you got to
I call
DM
that
me this
getting
picture
personal.
now. I got to see it.
It's a sight to see, is how I would put it. Here's the thing, though. I want to know how you all as fans are going to react. I'm more so now pointing my vitriol towards you.
Oh, I think
because I had people tweeting at me, degrading me, calling me what's the word? A chase sexual is what I was constantly referred to as.
I remember
because of my affinity for Chase Young and my belief in our homegrown star, who, by the way, earned a second contract with the New Orleans Saints. So can we clap it up for that? Clearly, it wasn't that big of a problem that he missed. But you all acted like he was the devil because he didn't show up to voluntary work. Are you going to have that same energy for Laramie Tunsil, who probably doesn't even know his new damn teammates? How many of his new teammates you think he's talked to? Josh Connolly even admitted as much.
He did,
didn't he?
He did. He did say he didn't talk to many of the
I don't know. I'm trying not to overreact. I swear I am. And I know what Anthony said. You're trying not to overreact as you overreact. This is just how I am. I'm fired up. I know I've been geeked up the whole show. I'm happy about the start of the season coming. But I don't like that he's not showing up, man. That bothers me. That bothers me. Our Christmas party for work, voluntary as hell. But it's a great opportunity to see folks that you don't get to see on a routine basis, to build camaraderie, a.k.a. be a good teammate. So what do? There's also a free meal provided. So we show up.
Damn, I would show up.
I'd show up. I'd show up. So we'll see if he's out there the next session that's open to the media. I got to check and see how the schedule rolls. I think it may be a today and tomorrow thing, and then they're back on the 4th. But I got to double check that because and then Little tweets at me saying it's what veterans do around the league. I guarantee you TJ Watt's at Steelers OTAs, right? Name your leader. I guarantee they're there.
So, by the way, on the schedule for phase 3.
Yeah.
The May 27th through 30th, and then they take a little bit of a break, and they're back June 2nd to 6th.
Okay. As far as what's open to the media, that's what I'm curious about. But
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see. 301-230-0980 is the number. I want to wrap on a couple of big picture topics around the National Football League, including some other no-shows to voluntary OTAs, one of which being Kirk Cousins, as they try to figure out a situation with him. Is someone going to eat that cap and be a viable trade partner to get Kirk to be a starter? The other quarterback-centric thing that I want to get to is Hall of Famer Terry Bradshaw. Hall of Famer Terry Bradshaw, a little long in the tooth on television. Think they probably need to replace him on Fox, but they don't need to stop putting a mic in front of his face when talking about the Steelers. He had this to say about Pittsburgh's interest in one Aaron Rodgers.
What do you think about possibly Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback? That's a joke. He shouldn't. That is just, to me, is a joke. But what are you going to do? Bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me?
I mean,
that's not
guy
the
needs
Steelers' way, right?
No, man, that guy needs to stay in California and go,
Thank
go
you.
somewhere and,
Thank you.
chew on bark and whisper to the guys out there.
100%. These guys on the show, Mr. Bradshaw, know I'm not a fan of his. We've been around each other personally, and he was not a kind person.
Yeah, he does not. I had to go over and introduce myself to him. He's not. I had to go, hey, Aaron, I'm Terry Bradshaw. I know he knows me, but I just felt like I better tell him who I am. Yeah. And not, you walk in there and you get in his presence and you feel like it's going to start snowing. So. Oh, hold it. Roger, that was supposed to be something. There you go.
Failure over his head. Dan Hampton, do you agree with that move that they go with Rodgers for the Steelers?
He is not a guy you would want for a neighbor. But here in Chicago, I watched him for 15 years make play after play to win football games. And from what I understand, Aaron Rodgers' agent is basically telling the league it's just a matter of time. Aaron's kind of cleaning up some personal matters. He is going to be a part of the Steelers. Now, whether you like it or not, to me, again,
I heard the same thing, Dan. I just don't want to believe
as a mercenary player, you could see him in Arizona or Tampa or something like that.
Well, I hope the first thing he cleans up is his damn attitude.
Woo-wee! I'm about to say, Terry said, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Going scorched earth on Aaron Rodgers. Now, Rodgers, I continue to say that I think he's going to sign in Pittsburgh. They met for 5-6 hours on his free agent visit. I'm sure at some point during that 5-6 hour meeting, they went, hey, buddy, when do you want to show up? You know what Aaron Rodgers probably said? As late as possible. So I think the Steelers are respecting the veteran quarterback's wishes. I'm sure they're already tampering, having him talk to Arthur Smith. We'll see what happens, though, because I guarantee you this. You talk about signing Rodgers not being Steeler-like. You know what is Steeler-like? Going with Mason Rudolph, and it ain't Steeler-like in a good way. It's going to do it, though. For the youngest in Charles Lynnell Willingham, you can catch me tonight, 6:30 to 9:10, leading up to Nats baseball on 106.7 The Fan. If you want to get some more of me, download the podcast wherever you get it. Big thank you to Britt Giroli. Big thank you to Danny Rouillet. Big thank you to video producer Brian, as well as our guy Mad Max behind the glass taking your calls. That's going to do it. Denton Day, back with you tomorrow. Tell him happy birthday. And we got a special happy birthday on the way out. Happy 70th birthday to the DOC, Rick Doc Walker. One of my absolute favorites, one of my biggest advocates, one of my biggest mentors, and a big reason why I'm able to sit in this chair as often as I do. I hope you enjoy your day. I hope it's filled with plenty of cigar smoke and some good bourbon.
That's right. Love you, Doc. Happy birthday.